Beneath the earth lie places that stubbornly keep their secrets hidden, temples carved with unimaginable precision, artifacts that challenge everything we think we know, and entire civilizations that vanished without a trace. These aren't just myths or legends. These are real, unexplained discoveries that have left archaeologists puzzled for decades. Who created them? How did they manage to build such wonders with ancient tools? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what else remains out there, still waiting to be uncovered? From lost cities swallowed by time to relics that seem to belong to another era entirely, tonight we delve into some of the most bizarre and mysterious archaeological finds ever discovered. So, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's dig into the enigmas that history still refuses to explain. Uncovering the secrets of the Brazilian geoglyphs. For centuries, the Brazilian geoglyphs have concealed countless secrets until recently, when something astonishing came to light. Hundreds of massive, geometric designs etched into the earth, invisible from the ground and only discernible from above, were found. These are the Brazilian geoglyphs, vast, mysterious earthworks sprawling across Acre State in western Brazil. Unlike the famed Nazca lines of Peru, which lie exposed on arid desert plains, these monumental patterns were buried beneath the thick Amazonian jungle for millennia. It was only with the advance of deforestation and satellite technology that they finally revealed themselves to the world. Their discovery has raised profound and puzzling questions. Who created these gigantic formations? Why were they built? And how could such vast constructions have been achieved deep in the Amazon, long before modern tools or machinery? The Brazilian geoglyphs first began attracting broader attention in the late 20th century, when satellite images and aerial surveys started uncovering enormous geometric forms, circles, squares, and complex shapes beneath the dense canopy. As deforestation accelerated, even more earthworks emerged, revealing an astonishing web of interconnected sites stretching across thousands of square miles. So far, over 450 of these geoglyphs have been documented, but experts believe many more remain hidden in untouched stretches of rainforest. The vast scale and intricate designs of these structures challenge long-held beliefs that the Amazon was once an untouched, sparsely inhabited wilderness. Instead, they hint at the existence of an advanced, highly organized civilization capable of immense engineering feats, a society that dramatically altered the landscape long before European explorers ever set foot on the continent. What's particularly baffling about the Brazilian geoglyphs is that they don't appear to be remnants of cities or permanent settlements. Unlike typical archaeological sites, there's little evidence of homes, everyday tools, or structures meant for daily life. Only a few scattered artifacts have been recovered. This suggests the geoglyphs served an entirely different function, possibly ceremonial, religious, or even astronomical. One leading theory proposes that these grand earthworks were ritual sites, where different communities gathered for ceremonies, celebrations, or political meetings. Others suggest they might have been aligned with the stars, the solstices, or other cosmic events, functioning as early observatories. Much like Stonehenge in England or the Carnac stones of France, these mysterious earthworks may have been carefully positioned to mark critical times of the year, essential for agriculture or sacred rituals. Another fascinating idea is that these structures helped organize ancient society, perhaps serving as territorial markers or gathering points for different groups. Yet, unlike traditional forts or defensive structures, the geoglyphs don't seem to have been built for war. There are no massive walls or clear signs of battle. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding the Brazilian geoglyphs is their true age. Radiocarbon dating indicates that many were constructed between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, though some evidence hints they could be even older. This means they predate the mighty Inca Empire and may have been crafted by a civilization now lost to history, a people whose name and achievements have been swallowed by time. Their discovery also forces us to re-examine our understanding of the Amazon itself. For a long time, scholars believed the Amazon rainforest was an untouched, pristine ecosystem, largely untouched by human hands before the arrival of Europeans. But the existence of these massive geoglyphs tells a different story. To create such monumental earthworks, ancient peoples would have had to clear large swaths of forest, dramatically reshaping the environment. This supports a growing theory that the Amazon was not an untouched wilderness, but rather a landscape actively shaped and managed by sophisticated societies. Adding weight to this idea is the discovery of terra preta, or Amazonian dark earth, extremely fertile, human-made soil found across the region. This indicates that ancient Amazonian civilizations weren't merely surviving within the rainforest. They were transforming it, engineering their environment to suit agriculture and settlement needs. The implications of these findings are enormous. If the Amazon was once home to complex, organized societies capable of large-scale environmental engineering, it means we must rethink the history of South America as we know it. It suggests that long before the Spanish and Portuguese conquests, great civilizations had risen and fallen in the heart of the continent, civilizations whose achievements were vast, yet whose stories have largely been erased. Despite everything we've uncovered so far, the true purpose of the Brazilian geoglyphs remains elusive. Were they sacred ceremonial grounds? Giant calendars written into the earth? Markers of power and territory? Or do they represent something far beyond our current understanding? Until more extensive archaeological investigations are carried out, the true meaning behind these enigmatic earthworks will remain hidden in mystery. The Brazilian geoglyphs have revolutionized how we view the ancient Amazon. They reveal a world far more intricate and vibrant than anyone previously imagined. These enormous geometric patterns, silently resting beneath the rainforest floor, tell a story of civilizations that once flourished where few thought it possible. They shaped the land in ways that we are only just beginning to comprehend. Whether they were sacred spaces, cosmic observatories, or symbols of ancient power, their very existence challenges everything we thought we knew about humanity's early achievements. And yet, not all ancient mysteries are etched into the ground. Pavlopetrai, the ancient city frozen beneath the waves, just off the southern coast of Laconia, Greece, submerged beneath the shallow, crystal-clear waters of a bay, lies one of archaeology's most astonishing discoveries, the lost city of Pavlopetrai. From the air, the outlines of streets, buildings, and courtyards are eerily visible, perfectly preserved beneath the waves. It was first uncovered in 1967, when British oceanographer Nicholas Fleming stumbled upon something extraordinary, a city so remarkably intact that its entire layout could still be traced, almost like a ghostly blueprint of an ancient world. Unlike other submerged ruins, which have often been battered and eroded by time, Pavlopetrai remains almost frozen in time. Its preservation is so striking that walking along its submerged streets today feels like stepping back into an ancient civilization that once flourished thousands of years ago. Carbon dating places the city's origins as far back as 2800 BCE, thousands of years before classical Greece ever rose to power. In fact, Pavlopetrai existed during the very beginnings of the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, making it one of the oldest known examples of sophisticated urban planning. What sets Pavlopetrai apart from other prehistoric settlements is the sheer complexity of its design. Most ancient villages from that time consisted of little more than simple huts scattered about. But Pavlopetrai reveals something else entirely, a highly organized, intelligently laid out city. Researchers have documented a network of stone-paved roads, two-story homes, open courtyards, and even evidence of an early drainage system, all indicating a society with a deep understanding of urban planning long before such practices became widespread. Some of the houses even had multiple rooms, showing that these ancient people divided their living spaces for different activities, a concept that would eventually become foundational to modern city life. Even more fascinating is the discovery of what appears to have been a central marketplace, a bustling hub where trade and commerce likely flourished. This wasn't just a sleepy fishing village tucked away along the coast. Pavlopetrai was a thriving economic center, possibly trading with the Minoans of Crete and perhaps even more distant civilizations across the Mediterranean. Yet one question lingers over Pavlopetrai, perhaps the most haunting of all. What happened to it? How could a city so lively and well organized end up silent beneath the sea? The most widely accepted explanation points to natural forces, earthquakes, and rising sea levels. Greece sits atop a highly active tectonic region, and throughout history, devastating earthquakes have reshaped its landscape. It's believed that a combination of powerful seismic events and relentless coastal erosion gradually dragged Pavlopetrai beneath the sea. Some scientists suggest that a series of violent earthquakes might have struck suddenly, causing the land to sink almost overnight and allowing the ocean to rush in and swallow the city. Others believe the process was slower, with the shoreline creeping higher and higher over centuries until Pavlopetrai finally disappeared under the waves. Despite how well the city's structures have been preserved, there's a striking absence of human remains at the site. This has led many experts to speculate that Pavlopetrai's citizens may have had enough warning to evacuate. If so, it raises even deeper mysteries. Where did they go? Did they rebuild elsewhere? And might their descendants have left behind written records that, if ever found, could one day tell the full story of their civilization? What we do know paints an incredible picture of a sophisticated and capable people. The residents of Pavlopetrai were master builders, shrewd traders, and possibly even some of the earliest sailors to venture far across the seas. Their location placed them along vital Mediterranean trade routes, suggesting that they engaged in long-distance commerce, exchanging goods, ideas, and culture with other civilizations around the Aegean and beyond. Artifacts recovered from the ruins, pottery, tools, and everyday household objects closely resemble those found in early Minoan and Mycenaean sites. This has led historians to propose that Pavlopetrai may have served as an important cultural bridge, linking the Greek mainland to Crete and influencing the rise of later, more famous civilizations. One of the most extraordinary aspects of Pavlopetrai is how accessible it is today. Unlike many sunken cities hidden deep beneath the ocean, Pavlopetrai lies in shallow water, making it one of the most extensively mapped and studied underwater archaeological sites in the world. Thanks to modern technologies, like 3D underwater mapping and drone surveys, archaeologists have been able to create incredibly detailed digital reconstructions of the city. These visualizations allow us to see Pavlopetrai as it once stood, vibrant and alive above the waves. However, its proximity to the shore also leaves it vulnerable. The site is delicate, threatened by erosion, pollution, and even the casual damage caused by modern boats. Preservation efforts are now underway, racing against time to protect Pavlopetrai's fragile remains so that future generations can continue to study and marvel at this ancient marvel. The story of Pavlopetrai offers a rare and precious glimpse into humanity's distant past, a time when early civilizations were already mastering the art of urban planning, commerce, and seafaring exploration. Unlike legendary places like Atlantis, whose existence remains wrapped in myth, Pavlopetrai is undeniably real. It was once a thriving city, a center of life, innovation, and connection before nature reclaimed it. Its streets, homes, and marketplaces stand as silent testimony to a civilization far more advanced than we ever imagined. Even in the depths of prehistory, humans were shaping the world around them with skill, ambition, and vision. Yet not every ancient mystery lies beneath the sea. Some are carved into stone, hidden in remote forests, waiting to be uncovered, symbols and structures that challenge everything we think we know about the ancient world. The Gosford Glyphs, an enigma etched in stone. Hidden deep within the Australian bushland lies a site that has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts for decades. Known as the Gosford Glyphs, these mysterious carvings have ignited debates, fueled wild theories, and kept the world guessing. Found in the rocky terrain of Ceredigion, New South Wales, these markings bear an uncanny resemblance to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. If they are genuine, Their existence would upend everything we think we know about ancient civilizations and their interactions. But are these carvings truly the work of Egyptian hands from millennia ago? Or is the truth far more mundane? The Gosford glyphs are carved into towering sandstone formations in an area already rich with Aboriginal history. Over 300 distinct symbols have been documented, etched into weathered rock faces in a remote, forested location. Their resemblance to Egyptian hieroglyphs has led to speculation that these carvings might be evidence of an ancient Egyptian presence in Australia, long before any European set foot on the continent. These carvings first came to public attention in the 1970s, when rumors of strange inscriptions began circulating. Initially dismissed as graffiti, perhaps the work of early settlers or modern pranksters, the carvings gradually drew closer scrutiny. Researchers were struck by the remarkable detail of the symbols, many of which closely resembled genuine hieroglyphs from Egypt's Old Kingdom, a period dating back over 4,000 years. This discovery sparked a wave of theories. Alternative historians propose that ancient Egyptian sailors might have reached Australia either through deliberate exploration or by being blown off course. Some even speculated that these hieroglyphs tell a story, a narrative of two Egyptian princes who were shipwrecked on Australian shores. According to this interpretation, one prince perished in this foreign land, and the other immortalized their journey in stone. If true, it would suggest that Egyptians had mastered long-distance maritime navigation far earlier than conventional history acknowledges. Yet skepticism looms large over the site. Mainstream Egyptologists and archaeologists have dismissed the carvings as a hoax, citing numerous inconsistencies. While some symbols appear authentic, others are a mishmash of hieroglyphic styles spanning centuries, an improbable combination for any genuine Egyptian inscription. Critics argue that such anachronisms undermine claims of authenticity, suggesting that the carvings are more likely the work of a modern enthusiast or hoaxer than an ancient Egyptian scribe. Adding to the skepticism is the absence of corroborating evidence. No Egyptian artifacts, settlements, or historical records mention an expedition reaching Australia. If a group of Egyptian sailors had indeed landed on these shores, where are the physical remnants of their presence? Without such evidence, the carvings remain an enigma, neither proven nor definitively debunked. One plausible theory is that the glyphs were created in the 20th century by someone with knowledge of Egyptian writing. Perhaps they were etched by Australian soldiers stationed in Egypt during World War I, who later returned home and carved these symbols as a prank or memorial. Australia's connections with Egypt during that era, particularly through the Anzac forces, make this theory feasible. Another possibility is that the glyphs were the handiwork of an amateur Egyptologist practicing hieroglyphic writing in a secluded location. What may have started as a personal project could have been misunderstood and elevated to the status of a historical mystery over time. Local Aboriginal perspectives add another layer of complexity. While some elders dismiss the glyphs as a modern fabrication, others suggest that they may reflect an ancient cultural exchange, potentially tied to migrations or encounters predating recorded history. Aboriginal oral traditions occasionally reference foreign visitors arriving from distant lands, a tantalizing notion, though one without concrete evidence in this case. Despite decades of investigation, the Gosford glyphs remain an unsolved puzzle, etched into Australia's cultural landscape. Whether they are the remnants of ancient explorers, modern soldiers, or a misunderstood practice site, their existence compels us to confront the limitations of our historical understanding. Yet, not all mysteries lie inscribed in stone. Some are even more tangible, involving objects and evidence that defy simple explanations. The intrigue of such mysteries lies not in interpretation, but in their undeniable physical presence, raising questions that challenge the very framework of what we believe to be true. The Lovelock Cave Giants. Echoes of a forgotten past. In the vast tapestry of human history, there are stories so strange, so far removed from what we know, that their very possibility feels impossible. Yet one such story has lingered, a legend passed down by the Paiute people of North America, who spoke of towering red-haired giants. These massive beings, they said, once roamed the land long before the first written records. It might have remained just a myth, until a remarkable discovery brought new questions to light deep inside Lovelock Cave in Nevada. Lovelock Cave, tucked away in the arid hills of northern Nevada near the Great Basin Desert, looks like nothing more than an ordinary cavern. But appearances can be deceiving. Its history is anything but ordinary. According to ancient Paiute oral traditions, long before the arrival of European settlers, their ancestors fought a brutal war against a race of giant, red-haired beings known as the Sacsayhuamán. These giants, believed to stand over 10 feet tall, were said to be fierce warriors who terrorized Paiute settlements, raiding villages, kidnapping people, and even resorting to cannibalism. After many years of conflict, the Paiutes claimed they finally cornered the remaining giants inside Lovelock Cave. They set a fire at the entrance, trapping the Sacsayhuamán, leaving them to perish. For centuries, this was simply a chilling oral tale, passed from one generation to the next, until 1911, when miners, digging for bad guano inside Lovelock Cave, unearthed something wholly unexpected: human remains, artifacts, and massive skulls, things unlike anything they'd ever seen. In the decades that followed, excavations inside the cave revealed a treasure trove of ancient items: woven sandals, fishing tools, weapons, many of them sized far larger than what would be normal for average humans. And then there were the skeletal remains. Reports claimed that some belonged to individuals of extraordinary size, with skulls so large they could supposedly fit over the head of a modern human like a helmet. Even more curious, some of the skulls still had traces of reddish hair, an unusual detail, given that the indigenous peoples of the region typically do not have red hair. These finds immediately ignited controversy. Some researchers argued that the discoveries might confirm that giants once walked North America, providing tangible proof of the old Paiute legends. Others scoffed, suggesting the evidence had been misunderstood or exaggerated, that the remains belonged simply to exceptionally tall members of an ancient indigenous group. The official archaeological stance is straightforward. Lovelock Cave was once a shelter and storage site used by the northern Paiute people roughly 2,000 years ago. The artifacts and human remains, according to this view, belong to ordinary people living ordinary lives. And yet, some early reports paint a different picture. They spoke of oversized bones, of artifacts far larger than typical, of anomalies that simply didn't fit into the accepted narrative. Over time, as experts combed through the findings, many of the sensational claims, like the red-haired giants, were gradually dismissed as myth. Still, not all questions faded so easily. Skeptics pointed out that some of the largest skeletal remains and the most unusual artifacts appeared to have mysteriously disappeared. Some suggested that critical evidence, pieces that might have confirmed the existence of these giants, were either lost, hidden away by private collectors, or deliberately suppressed. Whether these accusations are fact or fiction remains uncertain, but the mystery surrounding Lovelock Cave only deepened. Adding to the puzzle, some of the artifacts retrieved from the cave don't neatly fit Native American styles. The craftsmanship on certain items, such as intricately woven duck decoys and unusual tools, suggested a highly skilled, and possibly different, culture once lived there. Could the Sacsayhuamán have been a real people? Maybe not literal 10-foot-tall giants, but a population of unusually tall, light-haired individuals? Some researchers believe it's possible, proposing that they might have been migrants from an unknown land or descendants of a lost ancient group. Others propose a different theory, that the Paiute legends might have sprung from encounters with an ancient, now extinct branch of humanity, a group larger and more physically robust than the indigenous groups that followed. And then there's the bigger question. Is the Lovelock story just one piece of a larger global mystery? Legends of giants are found nearly everywhere, from the Nephilim mentioned in the Bible, to the mighty titans of Greek mythology, to tales of giant skeletons allegedly uncovered across North America, Europe, and Asia. Could these myths be faint echoes of a forgotten chapter of human history, one where giants truly walked the earth before fading into myth or merging with smaller human populations? Today, the Lovelock Cave giants remain an unsolved mystery, an unsettling whisper from the ancient past. If real, their existence would shatter what we think we know about the early peoples of North America. Some dismiss the whole story as just that, a story. But others hold firm, pointing to the original accounts of enormous skulls and strange artifacts, suggesting that the truth is far stranger and far more deeply buried than we might want to believe. Real or not, the Lovelock Cave continues to be a critical archaeological site, offering genuine insights into the ancient Native American cultures who thrived in the harsh Nevada desert. But for those who suspect that history is much stranger than we've been taught, Lovelock Cave stands as a place where legend and reality blur, where the line between myth and history fades into shadow. And yet, not all ancient skeletons tell tales of beings larger than life. Some hint at the very opposite, at humans far smaller than we ever imagined. Their existence, too, challenges everything we think we know about our species. In Australia, researchers stumbled upon something just as enigmatic: the 10,000-year-old skeleton of a dwarf-like being, a discovery that, like the giants of Lovelock Cave, doesn't fit neatly into any known branch of the human family tree. Unlike the towering figures of Lovelock legend, this discovery suggested a lost lineage of humans, smaller, yet just as mysterious. And it would raise even deeper questions about the true diversity of ancient humanity. The Eltanin Antenna, a mystery beneath the Antarctic waves. When humanity dares to explore the unknown, strange and wondrous discoveries often follow. Some of these are stunning natural marvels, but others resist easy explanation. And then there's the Eltanin Antenna, an enigma photographed deep beneath the Antarctic Ocean in 1964, a mystery that remains unsolved even today, standing as one of the most puzzling deep-sea finds ever captured on camera. The story of the Eltanin Antenna begins with a bold scientific expedition. In 1964, the USNS Eltanin, a state-of-the-art research vessel operated by the United States Navy, embarked on a mission to chart the unexplored depths of the ocean. It was part of a groundbreaking international project, harnessing cutting-edge sonar technology and deep-sea photography to peer into parts of the seafloor no one had ever seen before. During their survey of the Bellingshausen Sea, just off Antarctica's frozen coast, the team captured something unexpected. In one of the deep-sea photographs, nearly 13,000 feet or 4,000 meters beneath the waves, an astonishing image emerged. Resting silently on the seabed was an object that looked nothing like any known natural formation. The photograph revealed what appeared to be a metallic structure, standing upright in the deep, a central shaft, with symmetrical crossbars branching outward at carefully spaced intervals. The entire design resembled a radio antenna, complete with a precise, grid-like layout that seemed far too ordered to be the product of nature. In an era when exploring the ocean floor was still in its infancy, this discovery stunned everyone who saw it. Questions immediately flooded in. What was a structure that looked so artificial doing at the bottom of the Antarctic Ocean? And perhaps even more perplexing, if it wasn't natural, who or what had placed it there? One of the first explanations proposed was that the Eltanin antenna might be some kind of lost human technology, perhaps debris from a sunken vessel, abandoned military hardware, or even a Cold War-era surveillance device. The 1960s, after all, were marked by intense military secrecy and global tension. Some speculated that the object could have been a secret underwater listening post, designed to track submarines or monitor naval movements. But this theory quickly ran into major obstacles. There were no official records of any such device ever being deployed in that remote region. Moreover, the design of the object didn't match any known military or civilian technology of the time. And so, a more unsettling idea began to take hold, that the Eltanin antenna might not have been human-made at all. Certain researchers, and a number of UFO enthusiasts propose that it could be an alien artifact, an ancient surveillance device placed there long ago to monitor Earth. As bizarre as it sounds, this theory isn't as implausible as one might think. Some scientists have suggested that if an advanced extraterrestrial civilization wished to observe Earth discreetly, the deep oceans, covering most of the planet and largely unexplored, would be the perfect hiding place for their equipment. The antenna's grid-like, deliberate structure, its isolated location, and the fact that it had never been seen before, all seem to lend a strange kind of credibility to the idea. Yet, skeptics have pointed to a much more grounded explanation, one that, while less dramatic, remains fascinating in its own right. Some marine biologists believe the Eltanin antenna might actually be a type of deep-sea sponge, possibly a species known as Cladorhiza concrescens. These creatures anchor themselves to the ocean floor and grow in branching, upright formations from certain angles. They can look remarkably like mechanical structures instead of living organisms. Although this biological explanation appears reasonable, it hasn't satisfied everyone. Critics note that the object photographed in 1964 doesn't exactly mirror the known appearance of such sponges. This has left the door open for continued debate and kept alive the idea that it might be something else entirely. Another mystery complicates matters even further. No physical samples of the object were ever collected. Without a specimen to study, no one has been able to definitively confirm or disprove its true nature. Unlike other deep-sea anomalies that have been revisited with modern submersibles and technology, the site of the Eltanin antenna has never been re-explored. Over the decades, the object seems to have slipped into obscurity. Some theorize that natural sediment may have slowly buried it. Others suggest it could have been destroyed by the relentless forces of the ocean, or even quietly retrieved, perhaps to prevent public scrutiny. And yet, there are still those who believe that the antenna remains exactly where it was first discovered, lying in silence at the bottom of the Antarctic Sea, just waiting for someone brave enough and curious enough to find it again. The Eltanin antenna stands as one of the ocean's enduring enigmas, an anomaly balanced between scientific explanation, unsolved mystery, and wild speculation. Whether it turns out to be a strange but natural life form, the remnants of a lost civilization, or something far beyond anything we currently imagine, it remains one of the most captivating finds of the 20th century. This peculiar antenna, silent and unmoving at the bottom of the world, challenges our assumptions about what may lie hidden in the vastness of the oceans. And it serves as a sobering reminder. Even today, with all our satellites and technology, more than 80% of Earth's oceans remain unexplored. Over 70% of the Earth's surface is underwater, and who knows what else might be waiting down there, unseen in the darkness. But remember, not every mystery is buried beneath the waves. Some ancient enigmas stand proudly in the open, monuments whose origins are lost to time. Structures so old, so baffling, that even now they refuse to surrender their secrets. The enigmatic Carnac stones, a forgotten legacy in stone. Scattered across the serene countryside of France, there lies a riddle written in stone, one whose true meaning has faded into the shadows of time. Here, thousands of towering stones stand in formation, their silent vigil stretching across the land in perfectly aligned rows. This astonishing sight is known as the Carnac stones, one of the largest, oldest, and most mystifying megalithic wonders ever uncovered. Predating both Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, their existence raises a haunting question. Who placed them there and why? Hidden in the region of Brittany, France, the Carnac stones cover an expanse of over 4 kilometers, or roughly 2.5 miles. Over 3,000 individual stones populate the site, arranged with breathtaking precision into rows, circles, and clusters. Some of these ancient monoliths soar over 20 feet high, while others sit modestly close to the earth, almost swallowed by the grass. Unlike many other ancient sites where stones are clustered sporadically, Carnac stones seem to follow a deliberate, almost mathematical order, a design that has confounded archaeologists for centuries. What makes Karnak truly extraordinary is its staggering age. Radiocarbon dating places the stone's construction around 3300 BCE, though some scholars argue they could have been raised as early as 4500 BCE. If these estimates are correct, the Karnak stones would be among the oldest known structures in Europe, older than Stonehenge, predating the Great Pyramid of Giza, and arising before the first civilizations of Mesopotamia even began to flourish. And yet, despite the monumental scale of the endeavor, no written record has ever surfaced to explain their purpose. The builders left no markings, no inscriptions, no guiding symbols to offer clues. All that remains are these haunting stone formations, frozen in time, refusing to reveal their ancient secrets. One prominent theory suggests Karnak may have been a vast astronomical observatory, a prehistoric calendar engineered to track the sun, moon, and stars. Researchers have observed that certain stone alignments correspond strikingly with major celestial events, such as solstices and equinoxes. If this is true, it would mean the ancient architects of Karnak possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy long before such knowledge was recorded in human history. Others believe the stones served a ceremonial or religious purpose. In many ancient cultures, large stones were venerated as sacred objects, believed to be imbued with spiritual power or used as centers for worship. The deliberate and careful arrangement of Karnak's stones hints that they were placed not at random, but with a clear, meaningful intention, perhaps to mark graves, honor ancestors, or serve as ritual spaces for long-forgotten ceremonies. But among the more controversial ideas is the suggestion that Karnak was once the heart of a colossal temple complex, and perhaps even connected to the mythical lost civilization of Atlantis. Though there's no hard evidence tying the stones to Atlantis, some researchers argue that the precision and mathematical sophistication of Karnak's layout suggest knowledge of advanced geometry and engineering, abilities supposedly far beyond what Neolithic societies were thought to possess. Adding another layer to the mystery, local folklore tells of a Roman legion cursed and turned to stone. According to the tales, a powerful wizard transformed a marching army into these stones, freezing them in eternal silence. While these myths are undoubtedly symbolic, and of just how deeply rooted the stones are in the cultural memory of the region, one of the most enduring puzzles is how such colossal stones, some weighing over 50 tons, were moved and erected with such accuracy at a time when tools like wheels, cranes, and modern lifting devices had yet to be invented. Experts estimate that hundreds, if not thousands, of workers would have been needed to transport and position them. But if that's the case, why is there so little evidence of their construction methods? The same haunting question hovers over Stonehenge and other megalithic sites. Did ancient civilizations possess forgotten technologies or techniques that made these Herculean feats possible? Some theories even propose the use of sound frequencies or magnetic forces, ideas that, while speculative, reflect the sheer enigma surrounding these ancient monuments. Interestingly, some scholars believe a connection exists between the builders of Karnak and those who later constructed Stonehenge. Both sites share notable similarities: enormous stones arranged in deliberate patterns, potential astronomical significance, and a sense of advanced planning and engineering. Considering that Karnak predates Stonehenge by over 1,000 years, it's possible that the knowledge and traditions behind these sacred sites were passed along across generations, perhaps spreading throughout Europe. But if that's the case, one pressing question remains: where did this knowledge originate? Could there have been an even older, now forgotten civilization responsible for seeding this ancient wisdom? Or were sites like Karnak simply the flowering of a widespread Neolithic tradition that developed independently across regions? Another profound mystery concerns the eventual abandonment of the site. If Karnak held such deep importance, whether as a temple, a calendar, or a ceremonial center, what drove its creators to walk away? Some suggest climate change or natural disasters might have displaced the builders, leaving their stone legacy behind. Others propose that shifts in belief systems rendered the site obsolete, much like ancient temples and pyramids that fell into disuse in other parts of the ancient world. Today, the Karnak stones remain one of the greatest unresolved riddles in archaeology. Despite decades of study, no definitive answers have emerged, only tantalizing theories. To some, the stones are evidence of humanity's early brilliance, a sign that ancient peoples were far more capable and knowledgeable than we often assume. To others, they represent a tantalizing fragment of an even deeper mystery, one that might connect distant cultures and hint at forgotten chapters of our collective history. What is clear is that Karnak, like the Plain of Jars, Stonehenge, and the Great Pyramids, challenges everything we think we know about the ancient world. It urges us to remember that our ancestors may have possessed knowledge we have yet to fully rediscover, and that there are still secrets, carved in ancient stone, waiting patiently for us to uncover. But not every ancient enigma is etched into rock. Some mysteries take form in even stranger ways. The enigma of the Sacsayhuamán lines. Amid the stark and desolate expanses of Bolivia's high-altitude desert lies a mesmerizing puzzle, the Sacsayhuamán lines. Spanning thousands of square miles, this vast network of ancient geoglyphs forms an intricate web of perfectly straight paths that crisscross the barren terrain. Their immense scale is apparent only from above, leaving those who gaze upon them to wonder, who created these lines and for what purpose? How were they crafted with such precision, and why have they endured for centuries, seemingly untouched by the passage of time? Unlike Peru's famous Nazca lines, which depict animals, geometric shapes, and humanoid figures, the Sacsayhuamán lines lack recognizable symbols. Instead, they consist of thousands of arrow-straight pathways etched into the earth. Some stretch for mere yards, while others extend over 20 miles in flawless linearity, intersecting and overlapping in a way that resembles an ancient roadmap carved into the land. This network of pathways is estimated to span a combined length of over 10,000 miles, making it one of the largest geoglyphic systems on Earth. Yet, despite their scale, they remain one of archaeology's most understudied marvels. What makes the Sacsayhuamán lines even more extraordinary is their precision. Unlike roads or trails that naturally shift or erode over time, these lines have retained their unerring straightness for centuries. Even with today's advanced satellite imagery, researchers struggle to fathom how ancient people, armed with rudimentary tools, achieved such geometrical perfection over such vast distances. The question of who created these lines and why remains unanswered. The region's indigenous Aymara people, who have inhabited the area for generations, offer no definitive explanation. Local legends suggest the lines might have been sacred pathways, linking important religious sites, burial grounds, or settlements. Some researchers propose they were used in ritual pilgrimages, with participants walking the lines as part of ceremonies tied to ancient Andean spiritual beliefs. Others suggest a more practical purpose, hypothesizing that the lines may have served as territorial markers or boundary indicators for tribal regions. Points where many lines converge might have been gathering places for communities, ceremonial hubs, or shrines dedicated to deities. Another intriguing possibility is that the Sacsayhuamán lines held astronomical significance. Throughout history, many ancient cultures created structures aligned with celestial movements, such as the paths of the sun, moon, and stars. Could the Sacsayhuamán lines have functioned as a massive prehistoric observatory? Perhaps they were used to map celestial events or track time. However, the lack of clear patterns correlating with constellations or solar cycles leaves this theory in the realm of speculation. Among the most debated theories is the idea that the Sacsayhuamán lines were not just meant to be walked upon, but also viewed from the skies. The sheer precision and immense scale have drawn comparisons to the Nazca lines, which some believe were created to be seen by gods or celestial beings. Could the Sacsayhuamán lines have been intended as messages or offerings to entities above? Were they an ancient form of communication, bridging earth and sky? The greatest obstacle to fully understanding the Sacsayhuamán lines is their remote location. Perched in one of the world's highest and driest regions, the Andean Altiplano, the site is incredibly challenging to access. Unlike the Nazca lines, which have been extensively studied and mapped, the Sacsayhuamán lines remain relatively unknown to the broader world. One of the most remarkable aspects of these geoglyphs is their durability. Created by scraping away the top layer of soil and rocks, the lines have survived for centuries thanks to the region's arid climate and sparse vegetation. Unlike geoglyphs in more temperate areas, which often erode or fade over time, the Sacsayhuamán lines remain etched into the landscape as enduring testaments to the ingenuity of their creators. However, their survival is not guaranteed. Increasing human activity, including road construction and tourism, poses significant threats to their preservation. Without formal efforts to protect them, parts of this ancient network may be lost forever. Were the Sacsayhuamán lines sacred pathways, territorial markers, astronomical tools, or something far more enigmatic? The questions persist, defying easy answers. What cannot be denied is their breathtaking scale and precision, qualities that continue to baffle scientists, archaeologists, and anyone fortunate enough to glimpse them. As we ponder the mysteries of the Sacsayhuamán lines, we're reminded that some of the world's most profound enigmas stretch across vast landscapes, visible only from above. Yet not all ancient puzzles are written on such a grand scale. Some are far smaller, yet equally perplexing, challenging our understanding of human history and ingenuity. The enigmatic plain of jars. Deep in the remote highlands of Laos lies one of archaeology's most perplexing riddles. Thousands of enormous stone jars, some towering nearly 10 feet high, scattered across the valleys and hills of a plateau known as the Plain of Jars. This mysterious landscape has captivated researchers for generations. Who created these colossal vessels? What was their purpose? And why do they stretch across such a vast, desolate area, almost as though marking the path of some forgotten ancient ritual? Spanning more than 90 separate locations, the Plain of Jars is one of the most extraordinary prehistoric sites on Earth. In total, over 2,500 giant stone jars have been discovered, each weighing several tons. Some stand in tight groups, huddled together, while others sit alone, isolated and silent, dotting the wide open fields. Despite their massive size and the unimaginable effort it must have taken to craft them, little is known about the civilization that left them behind. Carved from solid rock, mostly local sandstone, though some jars are fashioned from granite and limestone, these ancient creations must have demanded incredible strength and ingenuity. Their interiors are hollowed out, featuring wide openings at the top. Yet, curiously, there are no carvings, no markings, and no inscriptions that might reveal their true purpose. Nearby, scattered lids made from stone suggest that some of these jars were once sealed, although many of the covers have long since been displaced by time and nature. Local legends attempt to fill in the gaps left by history. One popular tale speaks of a mythical race of giants who once ruled this land. According to the story, a great king of the giants commanded the creation of the jars as vessels for fermenting rice wine crafted to celebrate a victorious battle. Other folk beliefs suggest even stranger uses, that the jars were made by supernatural beings, intended either to store rainwater, preserve food, or perhaps even serve as gateways to the spirit world. Yet, while the legends are rich and fascinating, archaeologists lean toward a different theory. The leading belief among researchers is that the Plain of Jars served as an ancient burial ground, with its origins stretching back to the Iron Age, somewhere between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Excavations at several sites have uncovered human remains, burial items, and even cremated bones, hinting that the jars may have been integral to a complex mortuary tradition. Some experts suggest that the jars were used as temporary coffins. Bodies might have been placed inside, allowed to decompose, and then the bones would be collected later for reburial elsewhere. However, even this theory opens up new puzzles. If the jars were strictly for burial purposes, why are they spread out across hundreds of miles? And why is there a complete absence of inscriptions or symbols indicating who these people were? Unlike the elaborately inscribed tombs of Egypt or the ancient burial mounds scattered across Europe, The Plain of Jars offers no written language, no grand monuments, no clear evidence of the culture that created them. It's a mystery compounded by the fact that many of the jars seem unfinished, abandoned mid-construction. Some lie broken where they fell, while others remain half-carved from the stone, as though something catastrophic forced the ancient craftsmen to suddenly flee. Could a devastating invasion have interrupted their work? A war? A natural disaster? These questions, too, remain unanswered. Adding another layer of intrigue, some researchers believe the jars might have an astronomical alignment. According to this theory, their placement may have been deliberate, possibly linked to seasonal events or celestial movements. If this idea proves correct, it would mean that the creators of the jars possessed a surprisingly advanced knowledge of the skies, a level of sophistication few would expect from an ancient civilization in this region. But studying the Plain of Jars comes with immense challenges and dangers. The area was heavily bombarded during the Vietnam War, leaving behind a deadly legacy of unexploded ordnance. Today, vast sections of the plateau are still littered with hidden landmines and cluster bombs, making archaeological exploration a hazardous undertaking. Much of the site remains off-limits, and large-scale excavations have been extremely limited because of the ongoing risk. Nevertheless, recent research has begun to shed light on the ancient mystery. In 2016, a team of scientists performed carbon dating on materials found in and around the jars, confirming that they are at least 2,500 years old. This revelation places them among the oldest megalithic structures in Southeast Asia, predating many renowned ancient civilizations. Yet the people who created them remain an enigma. There are no surviving historical records to directly connect the jars to any known ancient culture. Some scholars speculate that they might have been made by the Mon Khmer people, early ancestors of some of Southeast Asia's modern populations, but no definitive evidence supports this theory. Others wonder whether the society responsible for the jars was wiped out entirely, leaving no descendants to pass down their story. Another fascinating theory proposes that the jars were not solely connected to burial practices. Instead, they may have been part of a vast trade network. Given Laos's strategic location at the crossroads of early trading routes, it's possible these massive vessels were used to store goods, like grain or food, for travelers moving through the region. Perhaps the jars served practical and ceremonial purposes simultaneously. But without inscriptions, artworks, or any form of written records, the true meaning behind the Plain of Jars remains elusive. Were they funerary markers? Storages for trade? Ceremonial objects? Or something even stranger that we have yet to imagine? What is undeniable is that the civilization behind the Plain of Jars poured extraordinary time, labor, and skill into carving, transporting, and placing these massive stone artifacts across the rugged landscape. Each jar stands as a monument to a people whose names, beliefs, and lives have been swallowed by history. Like so many ancient mysteries scattered across our world, the Plain of Jars challenges everything we think we know about humanity's past. It reminds us that history is filled with forgotten civilizations, lost traditions, and questions that may never find definitive answers. Until more discoveries come to light, these silent, weathered jars will continue to stand watch over the highlands of Laos, enduring through the ages, whispering the story of a vanished people to all who dare to listen. The hypogeum of Halsaflieni, a forgotten world beneath Malta. Beneath the small island nation of Malta lies a site so ancient, so mysterious, and so shrouded in secrets that, even today, scholars still fiercely debate its true purpose. This is the hypogeum of Halsaflieni, a sprawling underground labyrinth, hand-carved entirely from solid limestone more than 5,000 years ago. It stands among the oldest known subterranean structures on Earth. But what truly sets it apart are the bizarre and unsettling discoveries found within, findings that continue to baffle archaeologists to this day. The hypogeum isn't just notable for its immense age. Inside, researchers have encountered phenomena that seem almost otherworldly. chambers with astonishing acoustic properties, unsettling skulls with strangely elongated features, and hints of a vanished civilization that might have called Malta home before disappearing into oblivion. The entrance into this hidden world came by accident. In 1902, while construction workers were digging foundations for a new building in the town of Paola, Malta, they unexpectedly broke through the ground into an enormous hollow. But they hadn't stumbled into an ordinary cave or tomb. What lay beneath was a vast, interconnected complex of chambers, narrow passageways, and winding tunnels, an underground marvel, painstakingly carved out of solid rock. As archaeologists began exploring, it became clear that this wasn't a simple burial site. The hypogeum spanned 3 distinct levels, plunging nearly 40 feet deep into the earth. Intricate architectural features adorn the underground halls, pillared chambers, rounded walls, and even gracefully arched ceilings that echoed the design of Malta's above-ground Neolithic temples. Yet, unlike those surface structures, this subterranean complex had been deliberately sealed off and hidden, lost to memory for thousands of years. One of the most chilling discoveries emerged during the excavations: the skeletal remains of over 7,000 individuals. Many of these bodies were found in twisted, unnatural poses, leading to speculation about ritualistic burial practices or possibly even human sacrifice. But perhaps even more unsettling were a handful of skulls that defied normal human anatomy. These skulls had abnormally elongated craniums, were missing the usual cranial sutures, and displayed shapes unlike anything seen among known human populations. When these elongated skulls were initially placed on display in museums, they caused a sensation. Some researchers theorized that they could be remnants of an unknown human lineage, possibly a lost race that once thrived on Malta before vanishing without a trace. Others suggested they were the result of intentional cranial deformation through head binding, a practice seen in ancient cultures around the world. However, the missing cranial sutures and the strange anatomical features remained unexplained, casting doubt on this theory. Adding to the mystery, most of these elongated skulls have since disappeared, either lost, removed, or hidden from public view. Only a handful of photographs and scattered reports survive, fueling theories that these skulls might have represented something truly extraordinary, something authorities chose not to reveal. Beyond these human remains, the hypogeum is famous for another astonishing feature: its acoustic wonders. Deep within the structure lies the so-called oracle room, where sound behaves in an utterly unique way. When a sound is produced inside this chamber, it resonates at a frequency of about 110 Hz, a range known to influence human brain activity. Exposure to this frequency has been linked to altered states of consciousness, deep meditation, and trance-like experiences. Some experts believe that the hypogeum was not merely a tomb, but a ceremonial temple where sound played a vital role in religious or spiritual rituals. They propose that the ancient builders may have intentionally designed the chambers to enhance and manipulate sound for profound psychological effects. If this is true, it would indicate a sophisticated understanding of acoustics and human perception, knowledge far beyond what we usually credit to prehistoric societies. But who exactly built the hypogeum and why? The mainstream view is that it was created by Malta's temple culture, an advanced Neolithic civilization that flourished between 4000 and 2500 BCE. This society is responsible for many of Malta's megalithic monuments, like the Gontia temples, some of the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world. Yet the hypogeum stands apart. Unlike Malta's surface temples, which were carefully aligned with celestial bodies, the hypogeum was carved out underground, hidden away from sight. This deliberate concealment has fueled alternative theories. Some suggest it was a massive underground refuge built to protect against an unknown catastrophe or invasion. Others think it was a sacred sanctuary reserved for the elite, priests, rulers, or shamans who performed secret rites shielded from the public. A more controversial idea suggests that the hypogeum wasn't originally built by the temple culture at all, but was inherited from an even earlier, now forgotten civilization. Proponents of this theory point to the elongated skulls as evidence of a different people, perhaps connected to other ancient enigmas like the Paracas skulls of Peru. Could Malta once have been home to an ancient race now lost to history? Adding another layer of intrigue are Malta's local legends. Folklore speaks of a vast underground world stretching beneath the island, a hidden network of tunnels and chambers far larger than the known hypogeum. Some even claim that secret, undiscovered passages lead deeper underground, hinting at structures yet to be found. So far, no solid evidence has confirmed these tales, but they persist, passed down from generation to generation. Despite its great age, the hypogeum of Sacsayhuamán remains remarkably well preserved. Thanks to rigorous conservation efforts, access today is strictly controlled. Only a small number of visitors are allowed each day to prevent further damage to the fragile site. Yet even with these precautions, the full extent of the hypogeum's mysteries may never come to light. The hypogeum of Sacsayhuamán stands as a haunting reminder that much of human history remains buried, sometimes literally, beneath the earth. Its twisting corridors, its vanished skulls, and its mind-altering acoustics all point to a purpose far deeper than a simple burial ground. Whether it served as a sacred temple, a hidden refuge, or something stranger still, it remains one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world. But mysteries like the hypogeum aren't always hidden underground. Sometimes, they sit right in plain sight, ignored or misunderstood until someone dares to recognize the puzzle they present. The Fuente Magna Bowl, a mystery carved in stone, high in the rugged highlands of Bolivia, an artifact surface that defies explanation, an object so profoundly out of place that it shakes the foundations of what we thought we knew about ancient civilizations and their possible connections. This remarkable find is known as the Fuente Magna Bowl, and for decades, it has fueled fiery debates, endless speculation, and an air of deep mystery. This ancient relic, carved with bizarre inscriptions that closely resemble Sumerian cuneiform, was unearthed thousands of miles away from the ancient Mesopotamian world. Its existence raises a staggering question. Could ancient South American peoples have come into contact with civilizations from the far-off lands of the Middle East thousands of years ago? The story of the Fuente Magna Bowl begins near Lake Titicaca, that massive, shimmering lake resting high in the Andes, straddling the border between Bolivia and Peru. The artifact itself is a large, heavy stone vessel, similar in appearance to a ceremonial bowl or an offering dish. At first glance, it seems no different from other ancient relics found across the region. But one extraordinary detail sets it apart. Its surface is covered in mysterious inscriptions that look shockingly like Sumerian writing. Discovered in the 1960s by a local farmer near the town of Chua, the bowl didn't immediately reveal its secrets. It wasn't until scholars and researchers began to examine the strange carvings that the true magnitude of the discovery became apparent. Unlike the usual geometric and pictographic designs typical of pre-Columbian South American cultures, the Fuente Magna Bowl displays a script that bears an unmistakable resemblance to Proto-Sumerian or early cuneiform writing, the very script that emerged in ancient Mesopotamia over 5 millennia ago. If these inscriptions are genuinely Sumerian, the implications are staggering. It would suggest that an ancient civilization from the Middle East somehow made contact with Andean cultures in South America thousands of years before any known history records such interactions. Such a revelation would force a dramatic reevaluation of our understanding of early human movement, trade routes, and cross-cultural exchanges. However, here's the dilemma. There is no known historical record indicating any interaction between the peoples of Mesopotamia and the civilizations of South America. The Sumerians, who thrived in the Fertile Crescent between 3100 and 2000 BCE, were celebrated for their complex city-states, their invention of writing, and their robust trading networks. But there is no traditional evidence they ever ventured beyond the Middle East, much less across the vast Atlantic Ocean. This mystery has led researchers to split into two opposing camps. On one side are those who argue that the Fuente Magna Bowl is a genuine relic, an undeniable clue pointing to an ancient, forgotten transoceanic connection. On the other side are skeptics who maintain that the bowl is either a clever forgery, a simple misinterpretation, or perhaps the result of unknown cultural overlaps. Supporters of the bowl's authenticity highlight an important fact. Lake Titicaca was once the center of the Tiwanaku civilization, a mysterious culture that predates the Inca by thousands of years. The Tiwanaku people are known for constructing astonishing megalithic structures, including the enigmatic ruins of Pumapunku, a site famous for its gigantic, precisely cut andesite blocks that seem almost machine-crafted. Could it be that the Tiwanaku civilization was influenced by visitors from a faraway land, perhaps an ancient maritime culture capable of crossing oceans? Some researchers dare to suggest that the Sumerians, or another Middle Eastern civilization, possessed advanced shipbuilding skills that enabled them to undertake such voyages. While this theory remains highly controversial, proponents argue that ancient civilizations may have been far more mobile and adventurous than mainstream history gives them credit for. Some even theorize that Lake Titicaca might once have had a connection to the sea, making maritime access conceivable in the distant past. Still, the skeptics present powerful counterarguments. Critics claim that the Sumerian-like inscriptions could easily have been added much later, either by a modern forger or by a culture that developed a script resembling Sumerian independently. They also stress that, aside from the Fuente Magna bowl, there is no trace of Mesopotamian influence anywhere else in the Andean world. No Sumerian-style temples, no Middle Eastern artifacts, and no linguistic threads woven into the local indigenous languages. Further muddying the waters is the bowl's murky discovery. Unlike many major archaeological finds, which are carefully excavated under strict scientific conditions, the Fuente Magna bowl was found by chance. Little is known about its original location before it came into the hands of researchers. Without a proper archaeological context, determining its authenticity becomes nearly impossible. And yet, the mystery refuses to die. If the Fuente Magna bowl is truly an ancient relic of a forgotten transoceanic connection, it would suggest that civilizations long thought isolated were, in reality, far more interconnected than we have ever imagined. It would mean that ideas, technologies, and cultural traditions could have traversed the globe long before the great trade networks of recorded history even began. But even if the bowl isn't proof of ancient Sumerian voyages to South America, it remains an anomaly worth our deepest attention. If it was created by the Tiwanaku or another Andean culture, why does it so closely resemble Sumerian script? Was there a lost civilization that once acted as a bridge between these two distant worlds, a people who disappeared without a trace? Or is this simply another reminder of how separate societies, given enough time, can evolve surprisingly similar forms of symbolic expression? Until the day undeniable answers come to light, the Fuente Magna bowl stands as a haunting enigma, a relic that, by all logic, should not exist where it does. Whether it is evidence of a forgotten cultural connection between ancient worlds or merely an inexplicable outlier, its very presence challenges everything we think we know about the past. If civilizations once believed to be isolated were actually reaching across oceans to exchange ideas and traditions, then how much more of our shared human story has been lost to the sands of time? And how many other hidden connections are still waiting to be uncovered? Not every ancient mystery involves relics buried far from home. Some sit hidden in plain sight, daring us to recognize the extraordinary puzzles they present. The Lepedo Child, a discovery that changed everything. In the heart of Portugal, an extraordinary discovery sent shockwaves through the world of anthropology, a find so astonishing that it threatened to overturn everything we thought we understood about the story of our own species. Deep within a limestone shelter nestled in the Lepedo Valley, archaeologists unearthed the remains of a child who could hold the key to answering one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Did modern humans and Neanderthals actually interbreed? Unearthed in 1998, the Lepedo Child quickly became one of the most compelling and controversial finds in the study of human origins. The skeleton belonged to a child, no older than 4 years, laid to rest in a carefully prepared grave. The body had been painted with red ochre and surrounded by burial offerings, hinting at a profound ritualistic significance. Yet, as remarkable as the burial was, it was the child's physical characteristics that truly stunned the scientific community. The skeleton presented an unusual, almost bewildering, mixture of features. Some aspects of the anatomy were unmistakably modern human, Homo sapiens, such as a high, rounded skull and a relatively small, delicate face. But there were also undeniable Neanderthal traits: a robust lower jaw, a strong, stocky belt, and limb proportions that echoed our ancient cousins. This curious blend of characteristics led researchers to an extraordinary and groundbreaking hypothesis. The Lepedo child might represent direct evidence of hybridization between modern humans and Neanderthals. For decades, the prevailing belief had been that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were entirely separate species. Though they coexisted for thousands of years, it was thought they had little more than distant interactions before Neanderthals eventually vanished from the earth. But if the Lepedo child was indeed a hybrid, it would mean something far more intimate. These two groups had not just lived alongside one another, they had interbred, producing offspring that carried the legacy of both species. At the time of the discovery, this was nothing short of revolutionary and, unsurprisingly, highly controversial. Many anthropologists resisted the notion, maintaining that Neanderthals had died out without leaving any descendants behind. Yet, in the years that followed, advances in genetic research began to tell a different story, one that echoed what the bones of the Lepedo child had already hinted at. Genetic studies eventually confirmed that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had indeed interbred. In fact, all non-African humans today carry small but measurable amounts of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. This stunning revelation radically altered how we view our ancient relatives, not as a failed branch of humanity, but as a people who directly contributed to who we are today. But the Lepedo child leaves us with even deeper questions. If interbreeding between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals was not only possible, but perhaps even common, how often did it happen? Were there areas where these two groups merged into single, blended populations before Neanderthals disappeared from history? Could Europe and other regions have once been home to entire generations of hybrid communities, individuals carrying the traits of two species once thought to be entirely distinct? And then there's the matter of the child's burial. The use of red ochre, a pigment associated with ritualistic practices, suggests that whoever buried the Lepedo child saw the act as deeply symbolic, perhaps even spiritual. This ties into a growing body of evidence suggesting that Neanderthals were far more sophisticated than once believed. They buried their dead, created symbolic art, and may have held complex belief systems. If the Lepedo child was indeed a hybrid, then its burial is not just a sign of biological blending, but cultural blending as well, evidence that early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals might have shared not only blood but also ideas, traditions, and worldviews. It also opens another line of inquiry. Just how widespread was this interbreeding? If there were hybrids like the Lepedo child, were they rare exceptions, or were they relatively common in some regions? Did Homo sapiens and Neanderthals view each other as competitors or as potential mates, even as partners in survival? Some researchers propose that in certain areas, the disappearance of Neanderthals may not have been due to violent replacement by modern humans. Instead, it could have been a gradual merging of populations, with Neanderthal traits slowly fading into the dominant Homo sapiens gene pool over generations. Yet, one of the greatest challenges in understanding the Lepedo child is that it remains a singular find. No other skeleton with such a striking fusion of modern human and Neanderthal features has been discovered in the immediate area. This scarcity makes it difficult to form broader conclusions. Skeptics argue that perhaps the child was simply a particularly robust Homo sapiens, not necessarily a hybrid. But with growing genetic evidence supporting Neanderthal interbreeding, many believe the Lepedo child was likely not alone, that there were others like them, whose remains are either lost to time or still waiting to be discovered. This discovery forces us to rethink one of the most fundamental questions. What does it truly mean to be human? If Neanderthals were not so different from us, if they could create offspring with modern humans, share cultural practices, and leave a genetic mark that persists in billions today, then perhaps they were never truly a separate species after all. Maybe the story of human evolution isn't about one group replacing another, but a rich, complicated tapestry of populations meeting, merging, and influencing one another in ways that shape the future of our species. The Lepedo child stands as a powerful reminder that history is rarely as simple as we once believed. For centuries, we imagined a neat and separate timeline, where Homo sapiens stood apart from other human-like species. But as new evidence surfaces, we are realizing that the true story of our past is far more intertwined, complex, and mysterious. The existence of hybrids like the Lepedo child suggests that early humans and Neanderthals did more than coexist. They combined their worlds, sharing bloodlines, ideas, and dreams that echo forward into the present day. And while some ancient mysteries lie hidden in the bones of those who came before us, others are still etched into the very DNA we carry within us. The Sibiu manuscript, a glimpse into forgotten genius. Among the troves of lost writings scattered through history, one stands out as perhaps the most perplexing of all, the Sibiu manuscript. Unlike the enigmatic Russian megaspheres, which spark debates around mysterious artifacts, the Sibiu manuscript brings forth a different enigma, a mystery not of objects, but of knowledge, of science, and a kind of foresight that seems almost impossible. This ancient document, dating back to the 16th century, appears to offer detailed descriptions of multi-stage rocketry and the early concepts of spaceflight, ideas so advanced they should have been unthinkable at the time. But how could someone in the 1500s possibly understand the fundamentals of a technology that wouldn't officially emerge for centuries? The Sibiu manuscript came to light in 1961, hidden away in the archives of Sibiu, Romania. Spanning over 450 pages, this work was written in Latin and packed with technical drawings, mathematical calculations, and descriptions of engineering marvels. Yet what truly sets it apart is this. Amid all its pages, it contains astonishingly detailed accounts of rocket propulsion systems, including multi-stage rockets, designs suggesting liquid fuel use, and even rudimentary concepts for reaching beyond Earth. To grasp how incredible this is, consider that the formal development of multi-stage rocketry didn't occur until the 20th century, pioneered by visionaries like Konstantin Tsiolkovsky and Robert Goddard. Yet here was a document, centuries earlier, outlining these very principles with surprising precision. The mind behind this extraordinary manuscript is believed to be Konrad Haas, a 16th century military engineer. Working in Transylvania under the Holy Roman Empire's rule, Haas specialized in the design and innovation of military technology. But the writings he left behind suggest he was far more than a gifted engineer. He was an inventor peering centuries into the future, envisioning technologies that humanity wouldn't even begin to realize until hundreds of years later. Among the manuscript's most astonishing sections are the diagrams and descriptions of rocket designs employing multiple stages, where one section ignites, propels, and detaches, allowing a second stage to ignite and continue the ascent. This isn't just a rough idea. It's the very concept that underpins today's modern rockets. And remember, Haas was theorizing about this nearly 400 years before it became a reality. Even more startling, the manuscript hints at the use of liquid-fueled propulsion, a major leap beyond the solid-fueled designs that wouldn't become a reality until early 20th century breakthroughs. The very fact that Haas contemplated such things borders on the unbelievable. But this naturally leads to an unsettling question. Where did Haas get these ideas from? At the time, no one else had ever proposed anything remotely like this. Military technology in the 1500s relied primarily on simple gunpowder weaponry. Rockets were used in battle, yes, but they were crude, unstable, single-stage devices without any sort of separation stages or controlled ignition. So if Haas truly devised these designs himself, then he was a visionary centuries ahead of his era. Some speculate that Haas might have had access to ancient, long-lost knowledge, perhaps passed down through secret manuscripts or inherited from forgotten civilizations. There have long been whispers of ancient cultures possessing technologies far beyond what historians typically credit them for. Could Haas have been channeling knowledge not originally his, knowledge buried deep in history, waiting for a mind capable of understanding it? Another possibility is that Haas was simply a singular genius, a man with a mind so advanced that he could intuitively imagine what others wouldn't even conceive for generations to come. But even so, how could he have reached such scientifically sound ideas without the experiments, without the materials, without the technological foundations necessary to verify them? Mainstream historians, predictably, are cautious about more radical interpretations of the Sibiu manuscript. They generally propose that Haas was merely speculating, that his writings were hypothetical, theoretical musings rather than blueprints for real, working designs. In their view, Haas wasn't so much a builder of rockets as he was a dreamer, exploring possibilities without fully grasping how they might be achieved. Yet even this explanation feels lacking. The level of technical detail in Haas's writing is far too precise, too mechanically plausible, to be waved away as idle daydreaming. The manuscript's descriptions of multi-stage rockets aren't just vague speculation. They lay out practical, realistic designs. For some researchers, this suggests that the Sibiu manuscript is far more than just a fascinating curiosity. It might be evidence that advanced knowledge of propulsion technology existed long before official histories admit. Adding yet another layer of intrigue is the fact that the Sibiu manuscript remained forgotten for centuries, only reappearing in the 20th century, just as humanity's own journey into space was beginning. It's hard not to wonder, if the manuscript had surfaced earlier, could it have sped up the course of aerospace technology? Might it have served as a roadmap, centuries ahead of its time, for reaching the stars? The existence of the Sibiu manuscript forces us to confront bigger questions. How many other breakthroughs have been conceived and then lost throughout human history? If a 16th century engineer could accurately describe multi-stage rocketry, what else might have been imagined, achieved, and then forgotten? How many more manuscripts, scrolls, or carvings sit undisturbed in hidden archives or ancient ruins, dismissed by scholars as irrelevant or indecipherable? How many contain secrets and technologies that don't fit into the timeline we think we know? The Sibiu manuscript is a profound reminder. History might not be the neat, linear progression we often imagine. It may be filled with lost sparks of brilliance, ideas that bloomed far ahead of their time, only to be buried, forgotten, and rediscovered by a future that wasn't yet ready to understand them. If Konrad Haas could envision multi-stage rockets 400 years before they became real, what other miracles of knowledge might still be hidden, waiting for us to uncover them? Some mysteries are preserved in ancient manuscripts. Others are etched in stone or buried deep beneath the earth. All of them, like the Sibiu manuscript, dare us to ask, what else have we lost? The subterranean labyrinth of Baya, a portal to the past. Throughout history, there are places where echoes from the distant past whisper secrets of ancient civilizations, places that challenge our understanding of what we've been taught. Among these mysterious sites, hidden beneath layers of earth and time, lies the enigmatic tunnels of Baya. A subterranean maze beneath an ancient city, this labyrinth holds long-forgotten truths, and the passageways within it tell a story that is more intricate than anything we've been led to believe. Baya, once a glittering gem on the Roman Empire's coastline, was the epitome of luxury and excess. Nestled along the volcanic shores of the Phlegrean Fields in Italy, it was a world-renowned resort where emperors and the elite sought indulgence in opulent villas, grand thermal baths, and extravagant feasts. But beneath the surface of this thriving city lay something much older, something far more mysterious than the lavish pleasures of its time, a sprawling network of tunnels that hinted at a deeper, more sacred purpose. The tunnels of Baja were rediscovered in the 20th century after centuries of being buried under volcanic ash and debris. As explorers ventured inside these passages, it became clear that they were not simply remnants of a Roman aqueduct or utilitarian storage spaces. The tunnels seemed to follow a deliberate, almost cryptic design, twisting and turning in intricate patterns, some leading to sealed-off chambers, others descending into an abyss of darkness. Some of these narrow passages were so tight that crawling was the only way to progress, while others opened into what appeared to be ritualistic spaces. What made the discovery even more compelling was the sulfuric steam vents that permeated the tunnels. The very ground on which Baja was built is part of one of Italy's most geologically active regions, and these vents would have filled the tunnels with a thick, eerie mist. Imagine walking through these shadowy passages, illuminated only by the flickering light of a torch, as you were enveloped in the faint glow of the vapors, creating an atmosphere that would have been both disorienting and mystical. Such an environment led many to believe that these tunnels were not merely for mundane purposes, but were intended to simulate a journey into the underworld, perhaps as part of ancient initiation rites. One of the most intriguing features of the Baja tunnels is the chamber believed by some to be the fabled cave of the Sibyl. In ancient mythology, the Sibyl was a powerful oracle, a priestess of Apollo who spoke cryptic prophecies from deep within a sacred cave. Roman accounts suggest that the Sibyl's cave was located in the Phlegrean fields, near Baja. Was it possible that the tunnels beneath Baja were linked to this very cave, forming part of a larger network where seekers of wisdom would descend into darkness to hear the voice of the gods? Some suggest that the Romans built their opulent city atop something far older, an ancient place where initiates ventured through these underground passageways, breathing in the vapors of the earth, emerging with new visions and prophecies. Another theory proposes that the tunnels had a deeply religious or mystical function potentially connected to the worship of Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld. Ancient writings describe the region as a sacred place where the boundary between the living and the dead was unusually thin, a liminal space where mortals could commune with the divine. Since the entrance to the underworld in Roman mythology was believed to be nearby, could it be that the tunnels of Baja were designed as a symbolic gateway to the afterlife? While the precise purpose remains shrouded in mystery, it's clear that these passages were not constructed for practical functions like sewage systems or transportation routes. The design of the tunnels further fuels the intrigue. Unlike many Roman structures built for everyday use, these tunnels defy practical explanation. Some passages end abruptly. Others loop back upon themselves, creating disorienting patterns. This labyrinthine structure has led some scholars to speculate that these tunnels were intentionally crafted to induce psychological or spiritual transformations. Could they have served as part of an ancient rite of passage, where initiates would navigate the confusing passages, emerging on the other side forever changed, as if reborn? As if the mystery of the tunnels themselves wasn't enough, the city of Baja has undergone a transformation over time. Due to continuous volcanic activity and shifting landscapes, much of the city is now submerged beneath the waters of the Bay of Naples. Today, divers can explore the ruins of villas, temples, and mosaics preserved beneath the sea, offering a glimpse into a world long forgotten. But could there be even more tunnels hidden beneath the sunken ruins, waiting to be unearthed? The idea that these submerged remnants might conceal further secrets only adds to the enigma. The tunnels of Baja are a testament to the layers of history that lie hidden beneath the surface of our modern understanding. Whether they were simply a Roman curiosity, a peculiar construction for unknown purposes, or part of a much older, mystical tradition, their purpose remains elusive. These tunnels, with their mysterious design and haunting atmosphere, could have guided initiates on spiritual journeys, perhaps even allowing them to tap into forces beyond the physical realm. What we know for sure is that the tunnels of Baja are just one piece of a vast, ancient puzzle. They remind us that history is full of secrets, some of which have yet to be uncovered, and that the past continues to hold mysteries that challenge our understanding, inviting us to dig deeper and explore further. The Ancient Antarctica Map. A lost civilization's secret? Antarctica, the frozen expanse at the southernmost tip of the Earth, has always been shrouded in mystery. But what if this icy continent was not as unknown in ancient times as we've been led to believe? What if there was a document, an ancient map, that depicted Antarctica long before it was officially discovered or even covered in ice? This remarkable piece of history, known as the Piri-Reis map, presents a staggering possibility. Could an ancient civilization have mapped Antarctica thousands of years before modern history acknowledges its existence? Created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri-Reis, this hand-drawn map is a depiction of the known world at the time, including the coasts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Yet, what makes this map extraordinary is its startling inclusion of Antarctica, a landmass that had yet to be officially discovered in 1820. Even more mind-boggling is that the map doesn't depict Antarctica as a frozen wasteland as we know it today. Instead, it shows the coastline of the continent as it might have appeared without its thick ice sheet, with uncanny accuracy. Modern geologists and cartographers were left astounded when they compared the Piri-Reis map with current seismic surveys of Antarctica's subglacial terrain. The shape of the coastline shown on the map matches exactly with what we now know to be Antarctica's true form beneath its thick ice sheet, something that should have been impossible for anyone in the 16th century to know. The question is, how could Piri-Reis have had access to such detailed and precise information? Piri-Reis himself offered a clue in his writings. He claimed that the map wasn't entirely his own creation, but rather a compilation of older maps, some of which he believed came from ancient civilizations. Among these sources were maps from the Greeks, Romans, and potentially even Phoenicians, which opens up the tantalizing possibility that knowledge of Antarctica's true geography existed long before modern explorers first set foot on it. One of the most astonishing aspects of the Piri-Reis map is the depiction of Antarctica as an ice-free landmass. According to mainstream geological science, the last time Antarctica was free of ice was over 6,000 years ago, possibly much longer. If the map indeed shows an ice-free Antarctica, it suggests that someone, perhaps thousands of years ago, was able to chart the continent long before the ice began to accumulate. But who could have possibly mapped it? Several theories attempt to answer this question, each one more intriguing than the last. One possibility is the existence of a highly advanced civilization that predated recorded history, an ancient society capable of navigating and mapping the world in ways that seem almost impossible for their time. Some researchers point to the ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, or even an unknown lost civilization as potential candidates for having developed advanced cartographic skills that were later passed down through generations, eventually reaching Piri-Reis. Another theory suggests that early seafaring cultures, such as the Phoenicians or Minoans, might have ventured as far as Antarctica long before its official discovery. If this is true, it would dramatically change our understanding of ancient maritime navigation and its capabilities. However, even if ancient sailors did reach Antarctica, how would they have mapped its coastline beneath the ice? Some more speculative theories propose that Antarctica's ice sheet may have formed more recently than mainstream science suggests, possibly due to a sudden cataclysmic event. If an ancient civilization existed before this event, they might have mapped Antarctica before it was buried under ice. Then there's the most controversial theory of all, that the Piri-Reis map may be evidence of lost advanced technology from an unknown source. Some researchers speculate that ancient civilizations may have had access to aerial mapping techniques, astronomical knowledge, or even guidance from an unknown intelligence that allowed them to chart the world with extraordinary precision. While this idea is often dismissed as pseudoscience, it does highlight the astonishing accuracy found in many ancient maps, including the Piri-Reis map. These maps depict continents and coastlines that were unknown at the time, suggesting that ancient societies may have had a level of knowledge and technology far beyond what we realize. Skeptics argue that the Piri-Reis map is simply a misinterpretation, with the section believed to represent Antarctica actually being a distorted depiction of South America's southern coastline. However, this explanation doesn't fully account for the striking similarities between the map's coastline and modern seismic surveys of Antarctica's landmass beneath the ice. The level of detail is simply too close to dismiss outright. The Piri-Reis map serves as a testament to the idea that history may hold secrets still waiting to be uncovered. Could ancient civilizations have had access to more advanced cartographic methods than we realize? If so, what else might they have known? Were there once cultures capable of mapping continents long before modern history even acknowledged their existence? These possibilities hint at a deeper, more complex human past, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about the history of our world. The Indus Valley Script. Decoding a lost civilization. The enigma of the Indus Valley Script is one of the most enduring mysteries of the ancient world, a puzzle that has eluded scholars for thousands of years. Scattered across the ruins of the Indus Valley civilization, which once spanned across present-day India and Pakistan, are thousands of symbols etched into seals, pottery, and tablets. Known as the Indus Valley Script, this writing system is among the most elusive and enigmatic ever discovered. Despite decades of intense research, no one has managed to decipher it. But what could this undeciphered script reveal? Was it a fully developed language? A form of record keeping? Or something entirely different? And what knowledge, long lost to time, might it hold? The Indus Valley civilization was one of the ancient world's great societies, flourishing alongside Egypt and Mesopotamia. Yet, despite its grandeur, much about it remains shrouded in mystery. Existing from around 3,300 to 1,300 BCE, it stretched across an immense area from modern-day Afghanistan through Pakistan and into northwestern India. The civilization boasted some of the most advanced cities of its time, including Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, where highly organized street layouts, sophisticated drainage systems, and impressive architecture stand as a testament to their ingenuity. But for all their achievements, the Indus people left behind very few readable written records. What remains are thousands of small, intricate symbols inscribed on tiny seals and pottery shards. These symbols, composed of pictograms, geometric shapes, and complex arrangements, suggest a form of communication that has yet to be fully understood. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Sumerian cuneiform, which were eventually deciphered, the Indus script remains an unsolved enigma. One of the biggest obstacles in cracking the code of the Indus Valley script is its brevity. Most inscriptions are extremely short, often containing only a handful of characters, typically between 4 and 20 symbols, without any long texts or connected sentences. This makes it difficult to establish a clear structure or meaning. Without a Rosetta Stone, a key to translate the script into a known language, researchers have been unable to even determine the fundamental structure of the writing system. Another challenge lies in the uncertainty of how the script was meant to be read. Was it written from left to right, right to left, or in some other sequence? Some inscriptions appear to follow a unique pattern, similar to early Greek texts, where the direction of reading alternates with each line. But without understanding the language, the true reading order remains elusive. Theories surrounding the meaning of the symbols vary widely. Some scholars believe the Indus script could be a fully developed writing system, similar to those of other ancient civilizations. If this is the case, then the symbols likely represent words or syllables that might one day be reconstructed. Others propose that the script was not a full-fledged language, but rather a proto-writing system, a means of recording information, such as trade goods or ownership, without the full complexity of grammar. A major debate among researchers revolves around the language or languages behind the script. Some scholars suggest it might be linked to Dravidian languages, which are still spoken in parts of southern India today. Others speculate that it could be connected to an early Indo-European language or even represent something entirely unknown. Without a translation, it's impossible to say for sure. Despite the lack of progress in deciphering the script, researchers remain determined. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning are now being employed to analyze the patterns within the symbols, searching for underlying structures that might suggest meaning. By comparing the Indus script to known languages and writing systems, some hope that technology may uncover what traditional methods could not. One of the most captivating aspects of the Indus Valley script is the glimpse it might provide into the civilization itself. The people of the Indus Valley built large, sophisticated cities, traded with distant lands, and crafted intricate art and jewelry. But without written records, much of their culture remains a mystery. Were they ruled by kings, councils, or religious leaders? What were their beliefs, customs, and myths? What led to the sudden decline of their civilization? Unlike Mesopotamia and Egypt, which left behind countless written records detailing laws, histories, and stories, the Indus Valley people left us only silent symbols. If these symbols could ever be decoded, they might unlock the secrets of this forgotten civilization. Perhaps even more mysterious is the disappearance of the Indus Valley civilization around 1900 BCE. The great cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were abandoned, their once thriving streets now empty. Some researchers speculate that climate change may have caused rivers to dry up, rendering agriculture impossible. Others suggest that earthquakes or foreign invaders could have played a role. But without written records to shed light on the cause, the true reason remains a mystery. If we could decipher the Indus script, we might finally uncover the answers to the civilization's final days. Alternative theories suggest that the Indus people may have migrated, carrying their culture and language with them, possibly influencing later civilizations. If this is true, the lost script might not have disappeared entirely. It could have evolved into something else, hidden in plain sight within modern languages. Yet, there's a deeper question. If the Indus Valley civilization was as advanced as it appears, if it had large-scale urban planning, long-distance trade, and a form of writing, why did it not leave behind a more comprehensive written record? Was the script used only for specific purposes, like recording trade goods or religious symbols? Or did a vast library of Indus texts exist, only to be lost to time, destroyed by nature or war? For now, the Indus Valley script stands as one of the last great undeciphered writing systems of the ancient world, a silent relic from a civilization that once flourished but left no readable texts to tell its story. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, which were unlocked with the help of the Rosetta Stone, or Mayan glyphs, which were painstakingly decoded over decades, the Indus symbols continue to resist interpretation. Perhaps, one day, a new discovery, an ancient tablet buried deep beneath the earth, inscribed with both the Indus script and a known language, will finally give voice to this lost civilization. That day could unlock secrets we never imagined. Until then, we are left with only scattered symbols carved into stone fragments, silent whispers from a culture whose full story remains tantalizingly out of reach. The Indus Valley script reminds us that, despite our greatest advancements, some pieces of history continue to defy our understanding. These symbols whisper across the ages, their meaning just out of reach, keeping the full story of the Indus Valley civilization forever hidden in time. The London Hammer. A mystery that defies time. The London Hammer has risen to prominence as one of the most enigmatic and controversial artifacts in the study of ancient anomalies. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a simple metal hammer, seemingly stuck within a rock. However, the intrigue lies in the rock itself, which is said to be over 400 million years old, far older than human existence and well before the creation of metal tools. This apparent contradiction has sparked decades of heated debate. The tale of the London Hammer begins when Max Hahn and his wife, Emma, were hiking near Red Creek, Texas. As they ventured through the area, they noticed an odd piece of wood sticking out of a rock formation. With curiosity piqued, they decided to bring the find home. Later, they broke open the rock, revealing a hammerhead made of iron still affixed to its wooden handle, completely encased in solid stone. At first, It seemed to be just a typical 19th century blacksmith's tool. Yet, the true mystery lay in the surrounding rock. According to geologists, the formation encasing the hammer dates back to the Devonian period, a staggering 400 million years ago. If accurate, this would completely challenge our understanding of history. According to the conventional timeline, modern humans, those capable of forging metal tools, didn't appear until around 200,000 years ago, and metalworking itself only began about 5,000 years ago. So, how could a metal hammer be trapped in rock from a time that predates even the dinosaurs? For those who subscribe to the idea of out-of-place artifacts or parts, objects that seemingly disrupt our established historical narrative, the London hammer is often seen as a possible piece of evidence for lost civilizations, time travel, or even extraterrestrial influence. Some believe that the hammer could be a remnant of an ancient, highly advanced civilization that existed long before recorded history and vanished without a trace. Others suggest it could provide proof that human history stretches much further back than we currently believe, with advanced civilizations rising and falling long before our own. However, skeptics offer a much more grounded explanation. The most widely accepted theory is that the rock surrounding the hammer is not 400 million years old, but rather a much younger geological formation known as a concretion. Concretions form when minerals gradually harden around an object, creating the illusion of an ancient rock formation. If this is the case, the hammer would not be an ancient artifact, but simply a modern tool that became ensnared in a natural geological process. Supporters of the hammer's mystery argue that the iron used in the hammer is unusual for a typical 19th century tool. Analysis has shown that the iron possesses a purity level that is uncommon in tools of the era, leading some to speculate that it could have been made using a lost or unknown method of metallurgy. The hammer's wooden handle is also partially fossilized, indicating that it has been buried for a significant amount of time. But the question remains, does this suggest it has been buried for thousands of years or hundreds of millions? One of the main reasons the London hammer remains controversial is that it has never been subjected to rigorous scientific study. Currently, the artifact resides in the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas, an institution that promotes the idea of a young Earth and frequently uses the hammer as evidence to challenge conventional evolutionary timelines. Because of this, the hammer has remained out of reach for independent researchers, leaving many of its most critical questions unanswered. A key argument against the hammer's alleged age is the lack of geological context. When ancient artifacts are discovered, archaeologists typically document the exact location, the type of sediment it was found in, and any surrounding materials that could help determine its age. However, the London hammer was removed from its original location before proper scientific analysis could be conducted, making it impossible to definitively verify the geological history of the rock that surrounds it. Yet, the mystery of the London hammer endures. If it is truly just a modern tool encased in rock, why does it appear so out of place? Why does the iron seem to have such an unusual level of purity? And if it was found in rock that is truly millions of years old, what does that say about our understanding of history? Some argue that the hammer and other such anomalies may be caused by natural processes, while others believe they could point to the existence of lost civilizations far more advanced than we realize. There are even those who speculate that the hammer could be evidence of an ancient human-like species, one that developed technology long before Homo sapiens, but was somehow erased from history. The simplest explanation, however, might be that the London hammer is, in fact, a relatively modern tool that became encased in a rock formation much more recently than initially believed. Many geologists maintain that concretions can form in a matter of centuries, not millions of years, and that the hammer is likely an old mining tool that became embedded in such a formation. Even if the London hammer ultimately turns out to be nothing more than an ordinary 19th century artifact, its story continues to captivate people all over the world. The object represents something much deeper than just a relic of the past. It speaks to our endless curiosity and fascination with the unknown, our drive to uncover forgotten histories, and our willingness to question everything we think we know about the past. Whether the hammer is a true anomaly or just a bizarre geological formation, it serves as a reminder that the past is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Some of these mysteries are hidden in objects that seem out of place, while others are buried deep beneath the earth, in ancient chambers waiting to be discovered. One such place exists on the island of the Baltic Sea Anomaly, a mystery beneath the waves. Beneath the waters of the Baltic Sea, hidden deep within its depths, lies an enigmatic object that continues to perplex researchers, scientists, and explorers alike. This mysterious structure, discovered in 2011 by a team of deep-sea explorers, is known as the Baltic Sea Anomaly. It rests about 300 feet below the surface, off the coast of Sweden, and measures roughly 200 feet in diameter. Its peculiar appearance has raised more questions than answers, leaving experts puzzled and intrigued. When sonar images first captured the object, the team saw what appeared to be a large, disc-shaped formation with a flat top and sharply defined edges. At first, many assumed that the structure was a natural geological formation, a rock shaped by the forces of Ice Age glaciers thousands of years ago. However, as more details came to light, this explanation seemed increasingly insufficient. The object appeared to have unnaturally angular features, with what looked like staircases, corridors, and even a long, track-like structure leading toward it. Some reports even suggested that the surface of the anomaly contained unusual grooves and metallic elements, hinting that it might not be a simple rock at all. The discovery quickly captured the world's attention, sparking a wave of theories about what the anomaly could be. Some researchers speculated that it could be a sunken man-made structure, perhaps an ancient temple, fortress, or settlement, lost beneath the waves due to rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age. Others wondered if it could be the remains of a long-forgotten shipwreck, though the size and shape of the anomaly did not resemble any known vessel. However, one of the most controversial theories suggested that the Baltic Sea Anomaly might not be from our world at all. The object's disc-like shape, along with its location and the apparent absence of natural erosion, led some to propose that it could be a crashed UFO, lying undisturbed at the bottom of the sea for thousands of years. The resemblance to classic depictions of flying saucers, combined with reports of electrical equipment malfunctioning near the site, fueled the speculation that something highly unusual might rest on the seabed. Despite the growing excitement, efforts to study the anomaly up close have faced significant challenges. The cold temperatures, depth, and rough conditions of the Baltic Sea make it difficult to explore the site, limiting the ability of divers to examine the structure in detail. The team that originally discovered the anomaly, led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg, attempted further investigations, but their findings have remained inconclusive. One of the most baffling aspects of the anomaly is that it appears to be covered in a layer of material that some believe has been subjected to extreme heat, almost as though the object was exposed to fire before sinking to the bottom of the sea. Some researchers claim that fragments taken from the site contain unusual mineral compositions not typically found in underwater rock formations. However, these findings remain hotly contested, and many scientists argued that the anomaly is simply an odd natural formation, possibly shaped by glacial or volcanic activity. Adding to the mystery are reports of electronic devices malfunctioning when brought too close to the anomaly. Some divers have claimed that their sonar equipment and cameras stopped working inexplicably, only to resume normal function once they moved away from the site. Believers in the UFO theory point to this phenomenon as evidence that the object is not merely an ordinary rock formation. Skeptics, however, suggest that the disruptions could be caused by high levels of magnetism or unusual mineral deposits, which could interfere with the instruments. Another theory proposes that the Baltic Sea Anomaly is the remnant of a prehistoric structure, possibly built by an unknown civilization long before the last ice age and submerged as sea levels rose. If true, it would mean that the Baltic Sea was once home to a lost civilization, leaving behind ruins now hidden beneath the waves. but without direct excavation. Proving this theory remains nearly impossible. There is also the possibility that the anomaly is a relic from World War II. Some believe it could be an experimental military structure, a sunken warship, or even a piece of forgotten wartime technology. After all, the Baltic Sea was a key region during the war, and many wrecks from that era still lie at the ocean's bottom, waiting to be rediscovered. However, no official military records mention anything resembling the anomaly, and no known wartime debris matches its size or shape. To this day, the Baltic Sea anomaly remains one of the most puzzling underwater discoveries. Whether it is a natural geological formation, the remains of a lost civilization, or something far stranger, its very existence challenges our understanding of what lies beneath the ocean's surface. Despite multiple expeditions and scientific investigations, no definitive conclusions have been reached. The anomaly continues to captivate the imagination, its disc-shaped form resting quietly beneath the waves, defying easy explanation. Whether it is a natural wonder, an ancient relic, or something far more mysterious, the Baltic Sea anomaly serves as a reminder of how much of our planet's hidden past remains just out of reach. And yet, it is not the only mystery lying beneath the waves. Some underwater secrets rest much closer to home, hidden beneath lakes and waiting for someone to stumble upon them. The Longyu Caves, an enigmatic underground wonder, deep beneath the rolling hills of Xizang Province, China, lies a mystery that challenges everything we know about ancient construction. This mystery comes in the form of the Longyu Caves, an expansive underground network, so meticulously crafted that they seem almost modern in their precision. Yet, there are no historical records, no inscriptions, and no explanations for why or how these caverns were created. Their origins remain shrouded in secrecy. The Longyu Caves were first uncovered in 1992 when a group of local villagers set out to investigate a legend. For centuries, it was believed that small ponds scattered across the area were bottomless. No matter how much water was drawn from them, the pools never seemed to run dry. Intrigued, the villagers began draining one of the pools, expecting to find a natural cavern beneath. What they uncovered, however, was far more astonishing. As the water level dropped, an enormous underground chamber came into view. The cavern was cut with striking precision. Smooth towering walls, soaring ceilings, and intricate geometric patterns etched into the stone. The discovery led to the draining of more pools, revealing an entire network of massive subterranean halls, all interconnected by a maze of tunnels and passageways. The scale of the Longyu Caves is almost unimaginable. Over 30,000 square meters, about 320,000 square feet of caverns have been found, with some chambers reaching nearly 100 feet in height. What is most baffling is the construction itself. Unlike natural caves, which are formed over millions of years by the slow process of erosion, the Longyu Caves show no signs of such natural processes. The walls are perfectly smooth, as if carved with modern machinery, and the precision of their design appears deliberate and planned. Yet, despite their advanced construction, no records exist to explain who built them or why they were created. There is no mention of the caves in any historical documents. No inscriptions, no blueprints, and no cultural references provide any clues. It is as though the caves appeared out of thin air, without any civilization claiming credit for their creation. This absence of historical evidence is all the more perplexing given China's rich and well-documented history. How could something of such magnitude be built, only to be entirely forgotten? Adding to the mystery are the complex, repetitive patterns carved into the cave walls. These chisel marks cover every surface, suggesting some kind of symbolic or artistic purpose. Some experts believe they may have been purely decorative, while others propose they served a structural function, perhaps to reinforce the walls. Without written records, however, the true purpose of these markings remains elusive. The question arises, how could such an enormous construction project have taken place without leaving any trace in history? Theories abound, each more intriguing than the last. Some researchers suggest the caves were once a forgotten military installation, an underground city, or even a sacred site used for secret rituals. Others believe they could be the remnants of a vast, lost civilization, one that disappeared long before written history began. Perhaps the most controversial theory posits that the Longyou caves were created using lost, advanced technology, methods of stone cutting far beyond what was thought possible for ancient civilizations. The precision with which the caverns were carved, the smoothness of the walls, and the complete lack of tool marks that would typically be left by hand chiseling have led some to wonder if the builders possessed knowledge or tools that have since been lost to time. Despite years of exploration and study, no signs of human habitation have been found within the caves. There are no remnants of furniture, no storage areas, and no fire pits that would typically be present if people had lived or worked there. Whether the caves were used for housing, religious purposes, or military defense, there should be some evidence of human activity, but there is nothing. It is as if the caves were carved for a purpose that remains entirely unknown. What is even more remarkable is the stability of the caves. Despite being thousands of years old, the structures show no signs of collapse, even though they lack any visible support pillars. The weight of the rock above them should have caused at least some structural failure over time, but the caverns remain perfectly intact. This further suggests that the builders possessed knowledge and skills that defy conventional understanding. Geologists and archaeologists continue to study the Longyou caves, hoping to uncover more information about their origins, but so far, no definitive answers have been found. With no written records, no inscriptions, and no physical evidence of their purpose, the Longyou caves remain one of China's greatest mysteries. The Longyou caves are a testament to human ingenuity and mystery, vast hand-carved chambers with no known history, no evidence of their creators, and no clear explanation for why they exist. The scale of their construction, the precision with which they were built, and the utter lack of debris or tools challenge everything we think we know about ancient architecture. Were they a forgotten military stronghold? A sacred site lost to time? Or perhaps something even more mysterious? Until more answers come to light, the Longyou caves will remain an enigma, one of those places that reminds us how much we still have to learn about the past. Some mysteries, it seems, aren't just about lost civilizations or unexplained structures, but about the secrets of a forgotten world, one that may have walked among us, leaving behind traces of its existence that are far more enigmatic than we could ever imagine. The Sacsayhuamán walls, a mystery carved in stone, nestled high in the Peruvian Andes, towering over the ancient city of Cusco, lies one of the most remarkable archaeological wonders in the world, the Sacsayhuamán walls. This awe-inspiring site commands attention not only because of its immense scale, but also due to the mysteries surrounding its construction. The colossal stone fortifications stretch across the landscape, built with such flawless precision that they have defied both time and the elements for centuries. But these aren't just ordinary ruins. The stones that form these massive walls are among the largest ever used in ancient construction. Some of these blocks weigh more than 200 tons, yet they fit together so perfectly that not even a razor blade can slip between them. The sheer complexity and craftsmanship of Sacsayhuamán raise unsettling questions. How were these enormous stones quarried, shaped, transported, and placed with such flawless precision using only the primitive tools available to the Incas? And perhaps more perplexing, were the Incas even the ones who built it? The name Sacsayhuamán, which translates to satisfied falcon in Quechua, the language of the Incas, offers no hint of the true purpose of the site, and its origins are still debated. Situated at an elevation of over 12,000 feet above sea level, Sacsayhuamán offers a breathtaking panoramic view of Cusco below. Today, we see only a fraction of the original structure, as centuries of stone looting and dismantling, especially after the Spanish conquest, have reduced it to its current state. Despite its diminished size, the site remains a monumental feat of engineering that challenges conventional understanding. The walls of Sacsayhuamán are built with enormous limestone blocks. Some of these blocks stand over 20 feet tall and weigh as much as a commercial jet. Unlike the rough masonry seen in other Incan structures, these stones are shaped with such extreme precision that they fit together seamlessly without the need for mortar. Their surfaces are polished smooth, and their edges are cut with such precision that they interlock perfectly, creating a structure that has withstood centuries of earthquakes that have ravaged Cusco and the surrounding regions. The design of the walls follows a distinctive zigzag pattern, stretching nearly a kilometer across 3 massive terraces, resembling a series of giant steps. Some believe that this unusual design served defensive purposes, while others argue that it held deep symbolic significance, possibly representing the jagged form of lightning, a sacred force in Andean mythology. Unlike many other ancient fortifications, Sacsayhuamán was not built on flat terrain. Instead, the builders integrated the walls with the natural rocky hills, shaping them to blend seamlessly with the landscape. This careful integration suggests that the design was deliberate and sophisticated. There are also remnants of what appear to be large doorways, tunnels, and water channels, hinting that the site may have had more functions than just being a fortress. Some sections feature enormous circular depressions carved into the rock, which are believed to have served as ceremonial plazas or astronomical observation sites. Other sections include deep-cut channels that may have been used to direct water for specific patterns, possibly tied to religious rituals. Mainstream archaeology attributes the construction of Sacsayhuamán to the Inca Empire during the 15th century, under the reign of Emperor Pachacuti, the same ruler who is credited with commissioning the famed Machu Picchu. According to historical records, thousands of Incan workers spent decades transporting and carving these massive stones to form the site. However, this official explanation begins to unravel when we look at local legends, which tell a different story. The Incas themselves spoke of Sacsayhuamán as a place that was already ancient when they arrived, built by a race of builders long before their time. If this is true, it would mean that Sacsayhuamán predates the Inca civilization by an unknown number of years, possibly even millennia. One of the greatest puzzles of Sacsayhuamán is the logistics of its construction. The nearest quarry for these massive stones is miles away, across rugged and mountainous terrain. The Incas had no wheels, no large draft animals, and no known form of advanced engineering equipment. The official explanation suggests that thousands of workers dragged the stones using thick ropes and wooden rollers, slowly inching them across the landscape. But even with modern equipment, moving stones of this size would still be an immense challenge. If the Incas did rely on human labor alone, it would have required an extraordinarily sophisticated understanding of weight distribution, leverage, and manpower organization, skills rarely seen, even in modern construction. Some researchers believe that the builders may have had knowledge of techniques that have since been lost to time. There are theories suggesting that ancient Andean cultures may have discovered a method of softening stone, allowing them to mold and shape it like clay before it hardened again. This theory stems from local legends about an unknown plant-based substance that supposedly could break down rock. However, this concept has never been scientifically proven. Other ideas propose that acoustic levitation or vibrational energy may have been used to lift and move the massive stones, though no evidence of such technology has ever been found. The question of why Sacsayhuamán was built is just as captivating as how it was constructed. When the Spanish conquistadors first saw the immense walls, they immediately assumed it was a military fortress. Historical records suggest that it did play a key role in defending against the Spanish invasion. However, many archaeologists believe that the site served a purpose far beyond that of a simple defense structure. Evidence points to the possibility that Sacsayhuamán was a ceremonial or religious center, possibly dedicated to the sun god Inti, the most important deity in Incan mythology. Other theories suggest that it may have served as a royal retreat or a gathering place for high-ranking officials. Adding to its enigma, Sacsayhuamán has endured centuries of devastating earthquakes, while Cusco, located just below, has seen entire colonial buildings collapse due to seismic activity. Yet, The massive stone walls of Sacsayhuamán remain intact. This remarkable stability can be attributed to a construction technique known as ashlar masonry, in which stones are carefully shaped and arranged in such a way that they can move slightly during an earthquake, only to settle back into place. The fact that this technique was employed without the use of mortar makes it even more extraordinary. Some researchers believe that Sacsayhuamán was part of a much larger network of interconnected ancient sites. Comparisons have been drawn between the construction techniques at Sacsayhuamán and those at other megalithic sites around the world, from Pumapunku in Bolivia to certain structures in Egypt. The similarities in precision stonework and engineering methods have led some to speculate that these sites may have been connected in ways we have yet to fully understand. Could an ancient, advanced civilization have once spanned the globe, leaving behind traces of its incredible constructions? Despite decades of research, the origins of Sacsayhuamán remain a mystery. No one has yet been able to fully explain how it was built, who built it, or why. Was it a military fortress, a sacred temple, or something entirely different? Did the Incas truly construct it, or did they inherit it from a long-lost civilization with knowledge far beyond our own? And if so, what other secrets might still lie hidden beneath the Andes, waiting to be uncovered? For now, Sacsayhuamán stands as one of the greatest unanswered riddles of the ancient world. A site where history and legend blur into one. Its stone walls remain silent and unmoving, a testament to a past that refuses to fit neatly into the stories we've been told. The more we look, the more questions arise, and one thing becomes clear. There is far more to our past than we have ever been led to believe. The Aiud aluminum wedge, a mystery beneath the earth. In the quiet town of Aiud, Romania, a seemingly insignificant metallic object was unearthed under peculiar circumstances, becoming one of the most puzzling artifacts in modern archaeology. Known as the Aiud aluminum wedge, this curious discovery has left researchers scratching their heads for decades. Found buried deep within layers of ancient sediment, the wedge is made of aluminum, a metal that, according to all historical records, should not have existed at the time it was buried. This startling discovery forces us to confront a haunting question. Is this an out-of-place artifact from a lost, advanced civilization, or is there a simpler explanation yet to be uncovered? The story of the Aiud aluminum wedge began in 1973. While construction workers were excavating along the banks of the Mura River, near the town of Aiud, they stumbled upon something utterly unusual. At a depth of roughly 35 feet 10 meters, they uncovered three strange objects. Two were easily identified as fossilized bones of a mastodon, an extinct prehistoric relative of the elephant. But the third object was unlike anything they had ever expected. A corroded metallic wedge, unmistakably artificial in appearance. At first glance, it seemed to be a fragment of machinery, possibly part of a much larger device. Its shape and structure were reminiscent of modern aerospace components, sparking immediate intrigue about its origins. The real shock came when metallurgical tests were conducted on the object. The results showed that the wedge was composed mostly of aluminum mixed with small traces of other metals such as copper, zinc, and silicon. This discovery posed a major problem. Aluminum was not discovered until 1808, and it wasn't until the late 19th century that methods to refine the metal into a usable form were developed. Before modern industrial processes, aluminum was nearly impossible to produce, requiring incredibly high temperatures and complex chemical reactions. Yet, here it was, an aluminum object buried alongside mastodon fossils, suggesting that it had been in the ground for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of years. The implications of this find are mind-boggling. If the wedge truly dates back as far as the fossils it was found with, it would mean that an advanced society capable of refining aluminum existed long before any known civilization. This would predate the earliest records of human history and challenge everything we thought we knew about the technological abilities of ancient cultures. Naturally, this theory was met with a great deal of skepticism. Several competing explanations quickly emerged. One of the most controversial ideas is that the Aiud aluminum wedge is evidence of lost technology from an unknown civilization, a relic from a society that developed advanced metallurgy long before recorded history. Some have even suggested that it could be proof of an ancient human society that was wiped out in a cataclysm, leaving only scattered artifacts behind. Others have taken the theory even further, proposing that the wedge might be extraterrestrial in origin. The unusual composition of the alloy, combined with the wedge's resemblance to modern aerospace components, has led some to speculate that it could be a fragment of a crashed UFO, an artifact of technology far beyond anything humans were capable of producing in ancient times. Despite the speculation, mainstream scientists are highly skeptical. The most widely accepted theory is that the Aiud aluminum wedge is actually a relatively modern object, possibly dating from the early 20th century, which became buried through natural processes over time. Some researchers believe that it could be a piece of discarded machinery from World War II or an industrial site, mistaken for something far older due to its unusual corrosion and the lack of documentation about its discovery. The primary issue in determining the wedge's true origins is the lack of detailed records regarding its discovery. The artifact was reportedly examined by researchers at the Archaeological Institute of Cluj-Napoca, but the detailed documentation of the sediment layers in which it was found is either scarce or entirely missing. Without precise geological dating, it is difficult to determine the true age of the object, and any claims about its extreme antiquity remain speculative at best. Another key question revolves around the composition of the aluminum itself. Although early tests revealed an unusual alloy, subsequent analyses have yielded inconsistent results. Some researchers argue that the metal is not as anomalous as initially believed. If the alloy matches known industrial formulas, it would suggest that the wedge is simply a discarded piece of machinery from a more recent era, rather than an ancient artifact. Yet, some questions remain unanswered. If the Aiud aluminum wedge is modern, how did it end up buried so deeply, alongside mastodon fossils? Could it have been a case of accidental contamination, where a relatively recent object became mixed with older sediment layers? Or is there something more unusual at play, perhaps an error in dating, or even an unknown explanation for its presence? The Aiud aluminum wedge is just one example of many so-called out-of-place artifacts, objects that seem to exist outside the expected timeline of human history. Other similar anomalies include the London hammer, which was found encased in rock, and the Antikythera mechanism, a complex mechanical device discovered in an ancient Greek shipwreck and sometimes called the world's first computer. Like those artifacts, the Aiud wedge sits at the intersection of fact and speculation, science and mystery. To some, it is evidence that history is far older and more complex than we realize. To others, it is a misunderstood industrial relic, mistakenly thought to be much older than it truly is. For now, the Aiud aluminum wedge remains one of those curious anomalies that force us to question everything we thought we knew about the past. Whether it is a forgotten relic of a lost civilization, or simply a misinterpreted industrial object, it challenges our understanding of history. If it does indeed predate the known use of aluminum, it could point to an ancient civilization capable of metallurgy far earlier than we ever imagined. But whether the wedge is a mysterious piece of a lost past or a misunderstood artifact, it reminds us that history is full of surprises, sometimes buried deep underground, hidden within layers of ancient sediment, waiting to be uncovered. What mysteries lie hidden within the earth, waiting to reshape our understanding of history? Perhaps the Aiud aluminum wedge is just the beginning of an even greater discovery, one that will change the way we view the past forever. The Ulfberht statues. In the realm of archaeological discoveries, certain artifacts defy logic and seem completely out of place, even for their own time. Deep in Iraq, within the remnants of one of the oldest known civilizations, archaeologists uncovered a series of small, yet deeply unsettling statues. These figures, known as the Ulfberht statues, date back over 7,000 years and depict humanoid forms with elongated heads, slanted eyes, and distinctly reptilian traits. The Ubaid culture, which flourished in Mesopotamia between 6,500 and 3,800 BCE, remains one of the least understood civilizations of the ancient world. They preceded the Sumerians, widely recognized as the first great civilization, and laid much of the foundation for the advanced cultures that followed. The Ubaid people built some of the earliest known settlements, developed irrigation systems, and domesticated animals, marking the beginnings of civilization. Despite their contributions, however, they remain shrouded in mystery, leaving behind limited records and only fragmented evidence of their way of life. Among the most perplexing finds from this era are the Al-Ubaid statues, first unearthed in the early 20th century at archaeological sites such as Tel Ubaid, Eridu, and other early settlements in Mesopotamia. These figurines, crafted from clay and stone, depict figures in various poses, some standing, some seated, and others holding objects or weapons. Their appearance is what sets them apart. Rather than traditional human features, many of the statues display striking reptilian characteristics: elongated skulls, large almond-shaped eyes, and textured, scaled skin. A few even appear to be wearing helmets or ceremonial garments, suggesting that they may have represented figures of importance within Ubaid society. What makes these statues even more unsettling is the representation of female figures, some depicted in maternal poses cradling infants. This suggests that these reptilian beings were not merely symbolic, but may have played a significant role in Ubaid mythology, religion, or social structure. Yet, the biggest question remains: who or what were these statues meant to represent? One prevailing theory is that the Al-Ubaid statues are stylized representations of deities or spirits. Many ancient cultures created symbolic figures to represent fertility, protection, or supernatural forces. These statues could have served as ritual objects, totems, or protective idols, representing gods or mythical beings central to Ubaid belief systems. However, the reptilian characteristics of these figures have led to more controversial interpretations. Some researchers have drawn parallels between the Ubaid statues and ancient serpent worship, a practice that appears in numerous cultures worldwide. From the serpent deities of Mesoamerica to the Nagas of Hindu and Buddhist traditions, serpentine beings were often associated with wisdom, creation, and divine rule. Could the Al-Ubaid statues be early depictions of serpent gods, part of a forgotten religious tradition that predates Sumerian mythology? A more fringe theory suggests that the statues could represent an entirely unknown race or species, perhaps an ancient ruling class or priesthood, with their reptilian appearance symbolizing their distinct nature. Some even propose that these statues depict an entirely different branch of early hominins, a group that coexisted with humans but has since vanished from history. Though there is no physical evidence to support this, the statues' unique features continue to fuel speculation. Perhaps the most controversial theory is that these figures are evidence of early extraterrestrial contact. Ancient astronaut theorists contend that the Ubaid people may have depicted real beings they encountered, beings who did not resemble humans in the traditional sense. They point to the recurring reptilian features and the absence of similar depictions in later Mesopotamian art as evidence that these statues represent something extraordinary, perhaps visitors from beyond our world. Skeptics, however, argue that these statues are simply an example of early artistic expression, not unlike the many strange figurines found in prehistoric cultures around the globe. They remind us that the Ubaid culture eventually evolved into the Sumerian civilization, which worshipped a pantheon of human-like gods, with no mention of reptilian deities in their later mythology. If the Al-Ubaid figures represented a real group of people or beings, the question remains: why did they disappear so completely from Sumerian records? Another theory proposes that these figures are shamanic representations, possibly depicting spiritual visions or altered states of consciousness. Many ancient societies used hallucinogenic substances in religious rituals, and the bizarre, otherworldly nature of the statues could be an artistic attempt to capture supernatural experiences rather than representations of literal beings. Adding to the mystery is the lack of written records from the Ubaid period. Unlike the Sumerians, who left behind detailed inscriptions, the Ubaid people did not develop a written language. As a result, their beliefs, rituals, and traditions remain largely unknown. Without text to provide context, the true meaning of the Al-Ubaid statues is left to speculation. Some researchers have suggested that further excavations at Tel Ubaid and other sites may yield additional clues. If more figurines are discovered, particularly alongside new artifacts or burial sites, they could help clarify whether these figures were religious idols, rulers, or mythical beings. But for now, they remain an isolated enigma, with no clear connection to any known culture or tradition. The Al-Ubaid statues stand as a poignant reminder of how much of our past remains unexplored and misunderstood. Whether they were meant to represent gods, spirits, shamans, or something even stranger, they challenge our assumptions about early civilizations. Yet, without written records, their true meaning remains lost to time, leaving us with little more than speculation. Some mysteries, like these statues, may be small in size but monumental in implications. Others stretch across entire landscapes, with purposes that remain even more perplexing. The mysterious Phistos disk, a puzzle that defies time. Hidden beneath the sun-drenched ruins of ancient Crete lies a mystery that continues to elude even the brightest minds. For over a century, the Phistos disk has stood as one of the most enigmatic relics ever uncovered. Small enough to be held in the palm of your hand, yet baffling enough to leave experts at a loss, this artifact has become a symbol of one of archaeology's greatest unsolved puzzles. Its intrigue doesn't stem from what it reveals, but rather from what it refuses to communicate. This is the story of the Phistos disk, an object so peculiar that it defies explanation. With no confirmed meaning, no known origin, and no clear connection to anything else we've ever discovered. It was found in 1908 by the Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier during excavations at the Minoan Palace of Phistos, located on Crete's southern coast. The palace, dating back to around 1700 BCE, was a part of the mysterious and sophisticated Minoan civilization that thrived long before the rise of the classical Greeks. Deep within a subterranean chamber of the palace, Pernier and his team unearthed the disk, which was buried alongside linear tablets, another undeciphered writing system. This connection provided researchers with an initial time frame for the disk's creation, likely placing it around 1600 BCE or even earlier. At first glance, the Phistos disk might not seem extraordinary. It's a simple, flat, circular piece of fired clay, measuring just over 15 centimeters, approximately 6 inches in diameter. However, what makes it so fascinating is the content etched into both sides. The disk features 241 distinct symbols arranged in a spiral pattern, starting from the outer edge and spiraling inward. The symbols weren't carved. Instead, they were stamped using individual seals, a printing technique that was entirely unknown in the ancient world. This method suggests that the disk could represent an early form of movable type, centuries before Gutenberg's printing press ever came to be. The disk contains 45 unique characters that are repeated in various combinations and groupings, hinting at the possibility of a language or code. Some symbols are familiar: feathers, fish, human figures, flowers, while others are much more abstract. These symbols are organized into 61 groups, separated by small lines that many scholars believe represent words or phrases. Yet, despite over a century of analysis, no one has been able to definitively decipher what the disk communicates or even identify the language it's written in. Part of the challenge lies in the disk's isolation. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, which can be cross-referenced with other texts or bilingual inscriptions, the Phistos disk stands alone. No similar artifacts have been discovered on Crete, in the Aegean, or anywhere else. Without a reference point, attempting to translate the disk is akin to trying to solve a crossword puzzle without clues or trying to understand a language with no dictionary. Over the years, numerous interpretations have emerged, ranging from the plausible to the outlandish. Some researchers suggest that the disk might represent a syllabic script, similar to the later linear B, with each symbol standing for a syllable. Others propose that it could be a logographic system, where each symbol represents a word or an idea. A third theory speculates that the disk isn't a language at all, but rather a set of ritual symbols intended to be understood in a religious or ceremonial context. Then there are the more speculative ideas. Some theorists believe the disk could encode a hymn, a prayer, or a magical incantation. Others think it may mark lunar or agricultural cycles, functioning as a type of ritual calendar. Still, others suggest it could be a record of a journey or a list of offerings made to a deity. More extreme theories even argue that the disk might not be Minoan at all, but rather the artifact of an entirely unknown civilization, or, in some of the more imaginative proposals, something not of this world at all. While these fringe theories are typically dismissed by scholars, and show just how little is truly known about the disk and reflect the wide array of interpretations that continue to swirl around it. One of the more academically grounded proposals comes from Gareth Owens, a researcher who has spent decades studying the disk. Owens believes that the Phistos disk might represent a pre-Greek dialect of Indo-European origin and could contain a religious hymn dedicated to a Minoan goddess. He suggests that the repeated phrases and certain symbols point to a structure resembling poetic prayer. He has even tentatively assigned meanings to some of the symbols by comparing them to linear A and B, though he admits that any translation is speculative without more examples. Adding another layer of mystery to the disk is the method by which it was made. The unique stamping technique suggests a level of organization and sophistication uncommon for the Bronze Age. Each symbol was pressed into the wet clay using an individual seal, hinting that the disk wasn't just a one-off artifact but part of a larger system, perhaps used to print messages, prayers, or records on other materials that have since disintegrated. Some scholars even wonder if the disk could have been an early experiment with movable type, a printing method centuries ahead of its time. Yet, if this is true, why has no other similar object been found? Why did such an advanced idea appear once and then vanish completely? The room where the disk was discovered also contained linear A tablets, another writing system that remains undeciphered. While the two scripts appear distinct, some scholars speculate that they could represent different functions or languages used by different groups living on Crete at the same time. This suggests that the cultural landscape of the Bronze Age was far more complex than we usually assume. Ultimately, the Phistos disk's most compelling feature remains its uniqueness. It stands as one of the only known examples of a completely undeciphered writing system existing solely on a single artifact. Every language or code we've managed to crack has required multiple examples or bilingual references for comparison. The Phistos disk gives us none of that. Just two sides, one message, and a spiral of symbols that might tell a prayer, a story, or record something entirely unknown. Today, the disk sits behind glass at the Heraklion Archaeological Museum in Crete, where it continues to captivate visitors. Despite the numerous attempts to decipher its meaning, the disk's simplicity, symmetry, and refusal to reveal its secrets continue to draw people in. Unlike many artifacts, which can be placed within a cultural or historical context, the Phistos disk remains a mystery. It is a voice from the past that speaks in a language we may never fully understand. The Phistos disk is a reminder of how much we still don't know. For all our advancements in decoding ancient languages and unearthing lost civilizations, this little clay disk continues to elude our understanding. Is it a hymn, a code, a forgotten language, or a purely ceremonial object with no literal meaning? The answer may lie beneath the soil of Crete, still waiting to be uncovered, or perhaps it will never be found at all. Either way, the Phistos disk remains one of the most captivating and perplexing mysteries of the ancient world, not because of what we know, but because of what we don't. And in a way, it's this very silence, this refusal to explain itself, that gives the disk its power. The unknown speaks louder than words. even when it says nothing at all. As we contemplate the Phistos disk, we're reminded that ancient peoples may have understood concepts we once believed to be uniquely modern. What else might they have known? Could they have mapped parts of the world long before we thought they had been discovered? The Karnak Sound Temple, a mystery beyond time, deep within the ancient Karnak Temple complex, a sprawling city of stone that has stood for over 4,000 years, dedicated to the gods of ancient Egypt, lies an even greater enigma. Amongst this vast architectural wonder exists an anomaly, a chamber known as the Karnak Sound Temple, a place that seems to have been designed with a distinct and extraordinary property: the ability to manipulate sound in ways that defy our conventional understanding of physics. The Karnak Temple complex, located near Luxor, is one of the largest and most impressive religious structures ever built. Constructed over many centuries by successive pharaohs, it became a place of immense power, worship, and mystery. Yet, hidden among its monumental halls and towering columns, one small and unassuming chamber stands apart, baffling both researchers and visitors alike. Unlike the grandiose structures of Karnak, this chamber is compact, unclosed, and built with such precision that it is clear it had a very specific purpose in mind. When sound is produced within this chamber, particularly at certain frequencies, it amplifies in an eerie manner, as if the very walls themselves are not only conducting the sound, but enhancing its vibrations. What is particularly unusual about this is that the chamber is made of granite, a material known for its high quartz content. Quartz is a piezoelectric material, which means it generates an electrical charge under pressure. Some researchers speculate that the ancient Egyptians may have intentionally harnessed this property, turning the chamber into a kind of acoustic amplifier. This raises a profound question. Did the Egyptians possess an understanding of sound and energy that has been long forgotten? The acoustic properties of the Karnak Sound Temple have sparked several fascinating theories. One possibility is that the chamber was constructed for ritualistic purposes, designed to amplify chants and prayers, intensifying the spiritual experience. Ancient Egyptian religious practices were deeply connected to sound, music, and vibration. It is entirely plausible that the builders of Karnak designed this room with the deliberate intent of enhancing these effects, creating a profound connection with the divine. However, there is another compelling theory, one that goes beyond religious rituals. Some researchers propose that the chamber, along with other similar structures, was constructed to alter consciousness. The way sound resonates within the chamber could have induced trance-like states, potentially enhancing meditation, spiritual experiences, or even promoting healing. If this is true, it suggests that the ancient Egyptians had a sophisticated knowledge of how sound affects the human mind and body, an understanding that modern science is only just beginning to explore. Interestingly, the Karnak Sound Temple is not the only ancient structure exhibiting strange acoustic properties. Similar effects have been noted in other Egyptian temples, Mayan pyramids, and even Neolithic sites like Stonehenge. In many of these places, it appears that sound resonance and frequency manipulation were key considerations in the design. Could it be that ancient civilizations across the world understood how to harness sound for purposes beyond our comprehension? Recent scientific discoveries have shed new light on the effects of sound frequencies on the human body and mind. Studies show that certain sound frequencies can influence brainwave activity, inducing states of deep relaxation, heightened awareness, or even hallucinations. Other research suggests that specific sound vibrations can promote healing, affecting cells and tissues at a microscopic level. If the Egyptians had discovered these principles thousands of years ago, it would suggest a level of sophistication that modern science is only beginning to recognize. Of course, mainstream archaeology tends to dismiss such theories, claiming that the unusual acoustics of the Karnak chamber are merely an accidental byproduct of its design. They argue there is no concrete evidence to suggest that the ancient Egyptians had any advanced knowledge of acoustics beyond what would have been useful for religious ceremonies. However, others counter this view, arguing that the precision of the chamber, its specific location within the Karnak complex, and its extraordinary properties point to a deliberate and purposeful design. The mystery deepens when we consider that some of the Karnak structures seem to have been intentionally altered or even destroyed over the centuries. Could it be that knowledge of the temple's true purpose was lost or even deliberately erased? Some speculate that the ancient Egyptians once possessed technologies, such as those related to sound and energy, that were later forgotten or suppressed, leaving behind only traces within the architecture of their temples. Another question looms. If such knowledge did once exist, how was it obtained in the first place? Could this understanding have been passed down from a civilization that predated even the dynastic Egyptians? Alternative historians suggest that the Karnak temple, like other ancient monuments around the world, may have been built upon the remnants of an even older culture, one that fully understood the power of sound in ways we can only now begin to comprehend. If the Karnak sound temple was indeed constructed for purposes beyond religious rituals, what exactly was its function? Was it a place of healing, where sound frequencies were used to restore balance to the body? Was it a tool for altering consciousness, allowing priests or initiates to access hidden realms of perception? Or was it something even more advanced, a lost technology, long forgotten by history, waiting to be rediscovered? The Karnak Sound Temple serves as a reminder that ancient civilizations may have possessed knowledge far beyond what we attribute to them today. Whether its acoustic properties were used for ritual, healing, or something more advanced, the existence of this mysterious chamber raises one fundamental question. What else have we overlooked in our understanding of the past? Were the ancients simply master builders, or did they have an extraordinary understanding of sound, energy, and consciousness, principles that have since been lost to time? As we continue to explore these ancient mysteries, one thing is clear. The more we learn, the more we realize just how much we have yet to discover. The Paracas elongated skulls. A mystery from the depths of time. Strange artifacts are not the only mysteries that challenge our understanding of the ancient past. Sometimes, the most unsettling questions lie within the very bones of those who walked the earth long before us. In the arid coastal deserts of Peru, archaeologists unearthed something that defied all explanation: hundreds of human skulls. But these weren't just elongated through artificial shaping. They displayed features unlike any known human population. Some of these skulls had cranial capacities significantly larger than typical human skulls, while others exhibited anatomical differences that suggested they were not merely the result of head binding. These are the Paracas elongated skulls, one of the most controversial discoveries in the study of ancient human remains. The Paracas civilization, which flourished along Peru's southern coast between 800 BCE and 100 BCE, is renowned for its sophisticated textiles, elaborate burial rituals, and underground tombs. However, their most remarkable legacy is found within the Paracas necropolis, a vast burial site discovered by Peruvian archaeologist Julio T. in 1928. T. was astonished to find over 300 skulls, many of which exhibited extreme elongation and an unusual shape that stood in stark contrast to the skulls of the surrounding indigenous populations. While cranial elongation is not exclusive to the Paracas, many ancient cultures around the world practiced cranial deformation. This involved binding the heads of infants to create a distinct elongated appearance, and such practices have been observed in Africa, Asia, and parts of Europe. Often, this was done for reasons related to social status, spiritual beliefs, or an attempt to imitate a ruling class. But what makes the Paracas skulls so extraordinary is that some of them don't seem to be artificially modified at all. Typically, skull binding alters the shape of the skull, but does not affect its volume or internal structure. Yet, the Paracas skulls reveal a different story. Some of these skulls possessed cranial capacities up to 25% larger than the average human skull, and their bone density differed from normal human bones. In fact, some skulls exhibited thicker, heavier bone structures, and the sutures, the natural joints between the skull plates, were not always positioned as they should have been. Some had only 2 major skull plates instead of the usual 3, a feature not found in any known human population. These anomalies have sparked a wave of speculation. Were these skulls simply the result of genetic variation, or did they belong to an entirely unknown branch of humanity? Some researchers have suggested that the skulls might represent a distinct, now extinct lineage that coexisted with early South American civilizations before mysteriously vanishing. Others have speculated that the differences could be attributed to a rare genetic mutation, though no similar mutations have been documented in large populations anywhere else. To investigate these possibilities, researchers turned to DNA analysis. In 2014, preliminary genetic testing was conducted on a small number of the Paracas skulls. The results were nothing short of astonishing. According to the reports, the DNA did not align with any known Native American genetic lineage, nor did it correspond with any modern human populations in ways one might expect. Instead, the DNA appeared to contain markers from European and Middle Eastern populations, a highly unusual finding for a civilization that existed thousands of years before transcontinental contact. This discovery only deepened the mystery. If the Paracas people were not genetically related to other South American civilizations, where did they come from? Some researchers proposed that the Paracas civilization might have been influenced by a lost migration of people who arrived by sea long before history records such voyages. Others dismissed the results, suggesting that the findings could have been the result of contaminated samples or testing errors, as no large-scale studies have been conducted to verify these results. More controversial theories also emerged. Some suggested that the Paracas skulls might be evidence of a non-human species, perhaps a relic of an unknown hominin group, or even something more extraordinary. Though the idea of an advanced, unknown people coexisting with early human civilizations remains a fringe theory, it continues to intrigue those captivated by the mysteries of the ancient world. The unusual cranial structures and genetic results certainly fueled further speculation, but could there be a simpler explanation? One theory that has gained some traction is that the Paracas skulls were the product of deliberate cranial modification, combined with certain genetic factors. If the Paracas practiced head binding over many generations, it's possible that their genetic traits adapted over time, resulting in naturally elongated skulls in some individuals. This could explain why some skulls seem to differ from the typical pattern of cranial deformation. However, this theory fails to account for other anatomical anomalies, such as the peculiar bone structure, the missing sutures, and the larger cranial capacity. These features remain unexplained, leaving the true nature of the Paracas skulls an open mystery. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Paracas culture is that it mysteriously disappeared around 100 BCE. They were succeeded by the Nazca civilization, famous for its massive desert geoglyphs. But the fate of the Paracas people remains unknown. Some theories suggest they were wiped out by disease, war, or environmental changes, while others believe they simply merged with other cultures, their unique genetic traits slowly fading over time. Despite ongoing research, the Paracas skulls remain one of archaeology's most unsettling and captivating mysteries. Their extraordinary shapes continue to resist easy explanations, leaving researchers to wonder whether they were the result of intentional cranial shaping practices, genetic anomalies, an unknown human lineage, or perhaps something even stranger. Until comprehensive DNA analysis provides more definitive answers, we are left with only tantalizing possibilities. The Paracas skulls force us to question our assumptions about ancient civilizations and remind us just how little we truly know about those who lived before us. Their existence raised fundamental questions. Who exactly were the Paracas people? Where did they come from? And most intriguingly, what happened to them? Did their lineage vanish completely, leaving only these remarkable skulls as evidence of their once thriving society? Or could their story still be hidden, waiting to be uncovered in the uncharted depths of human history? Ultimately, the Paracas skulls serve as a powerful reminder that the ancient world is filled with lost cultures, each leaving behind more questions than answers. They silently encourage us to keep exploring deep beneath the sands of time, in the hope of discovering the secrets of a forgotten past. The Kaimanawa Wall, a mystery lost in time. Some enigmas lie within the very fabric of history, puzzling our understanding of the past, while others defy any attempt at classification, existing far outside the boundaries of known historical records. One such bewildering structure is located in New Zealand, a land rich with Maori heritage, yet home to a mystery that doesn't seem to belong to any established culture. This mystery is known as the Kaimanawa Wall, and it has left researchers, archaeologists, and explorers questioning whether it is simply an unusual rock formation or evidence of a forgotten civilization that predates all known records of human settlement in the region. Located near the southern edge of Lake Taupo, the Kaimanawa Wall is a formation of massive stone blocks stacked in such a way that it initially appears to be the foundation of some ancient megalithic structure. These large, symmetrical blocks fit together with remarkable precision, giving the impression of an artificial wall emerging from the earth. The stones are smooth, straight-edged, and uniformly shaped, which has led many to believe that they were deliberately placed rather than formed naturally. But what truly complicates the mystery surrounding this wall is one undeniable fact. There is no known record of any civilization in New Zealand capable of constructing such a structure. The Maori people, who are the first known inhabitants of New Zealand, are believed to have arrived on these shores just about 1,000 years ago. Their traditional building techniques, however, did not involve the use of massive stone blocks in the fashion seen at Kaimanawa. If the wall is indeed man-made, it would suggest the existence of a civilization in New Zealand long before the arrival of the Maori, a possibility that mainstream archaeology currently refuses to acknowledge. The controversy surrounding the Kaimanawa Wall erupted in the 1990s, when alternative historians and researchers began to suggest that this site bore a striking resemblance to other megalithic structures scattered across the globe, particularly those in South America. Some saw similarities between it and the Sacsayhuamán ruins in Peru, where massive stones interlock to form ancient walls that have stood the test of time. The precise arrangement of the Kaimanawa Wall's blocks, coupled with their alignment along straight, geometric lines, ignited speculation that this was not a naturally occurring formation, but rather a relic of some lost civilization. Supporters of the theory that the Kaimanawa Wall is an ancient human-made structure argue that it represents a missing chapter in New Zealand's history. If the wall was constructed by an unknown civilization, it could mean that humans inhabited the region far earlier than we ever thought possible, perhaps even thousands of years before the arrival of the Maori. Some theories even suggest that pre-Maori cultures once thrived in the region, but their existence has been lost, erased, or forgotten by recorded history. However, mainstream archaeologists and geologists have quickly dismissed these theories, asserting that the Kaimanawa Wall is nothing more than a natural geological formation. According to their analysis, the symmetrical stones making up the wall are simply fractured ignimbrite, a type of volcanic rock that, over time, naturally splits into geometric shapes. This process, known as jointing and weathering, can occasionally create the illusion of artificial construction, even though no human hands were involved. Despite this explanation, many remain unconvinced. Critics argue that the blocks appear to be carefully stacked rather than just naturally fractured, implying an intentional arrangement. Others have pointed out certain sections of the wall that seem to bear signs of tool marks, which would suggest human involvement rather than natural processes. If this is true, it would mean that the Kaimanawa Wall's origins are far older and far more complicated than mainstream archaeology currently accepts. Adding to the mystery is the almost complete lack of excavation or further study at the site. Unlike many other controversial historical locations, the Kaimanawa Wall has largely been ignored by the scientific community. Some researchers claim that there is a reluctance to properly investigate the site, as any evidence of a pre-Maori civilization would challenge the accepted narrative of New Zealand's history. Whether this reluctance stems from genuine scientific skepticism or simply a lack of interest is a question that remains unanswered. One of the more unconventional theories surrounding the Kaimanawa Wall posits that it was built by an ancient civilization with ties to early South American cultures. Some alternative researchers have suggested that, long before the Polynesian migrations, a group of South American builders or navigators may have crossed the Pacific and settled in New Zealand, bringing with them the knowledge of megalithic construction. While this idea remains speculative, it is intriguing that similar stone structures exist in places thousands of miles apart, despite there being no officially recognized connection between the cultures that created them. Another possibility is that the Kaimanawa Wall was once part of a much larger structure, one that has since eroded or collapsed over time, leaving only its lower sections behind. If this theory holds true, then the full extent of the mystery might still be buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Regardless of its origins, the Kaimanawa Wall remains one of New Zealand's most perplexing anomalies. Whether it is a natural rock formation or evidence of a long-lost civilization, the wall challenges the accepted timeline of human settlement in the region. If the wall was indeed shaped by human hands, the question arises, who built it? And why is there no historical record of its existence? Until proper excavation and study are conducted, the true story of the Kaimanawa Wall will remain a mystery. One more example of how much of our past is still hidden, buried beneath the sands of time and the layers of earth. The Dykus Spheres, a mystery carved in stone. Amidst the vast expanse of history, there are some mysteries that remain firmly anchored in the earth, yet leave us with no answers. These are the Dykus Spheres, enormous, flawlessly shaped stone orbs whose very existence raises questions that remain unanswered. They stand in silence, their purpose unknown, their creators lost to time. Unlike the twisting tunnels of Baya, which beckon us into the unknown with their labyrinthine passages, the Dykus Spheres present a far more direct enigma. They exist, they are precise, and yet no one can explain why they were created or how their creators achieved such an extraordinary level of craftsmanship. Discovered in the 1930s, the Dykus Spheres came to light when workers were clearing land for banana plantations in the Dykus Delta, an area once home to a mysterious civilization that thrived long before European explorers set foot on the continent. As the land was stripped away, enormous stone spheres began emerging from the earth, some small enough to be the size of a bowling ball, while others weighed several tons. What immediately struck researchers was the near-perfect spherical shape of these stones. These were not just random rocks. They had been deliberately carved, polished, and carefully placed. The first question to arise was an obvious one. How were they made? The spheres are crafted from granodiorite, an incredibly hard rock that would have required advanced tools to shape. Tools that the known indigenous cultures of the region simply did not possess. Yet, these spheres show no signs of crude chiseling or primitive shaping techniques. They are so precisely round that even with modern technology, achieving such symmetry would be an immense challenge. Some of them are flawless, as though they were sculpted using a method far beyond anything history suggests should have been possible. The next riddle is why they were made. Unlike the pyramids, temples, or other megalithic structures found across the world, the Dykus Spheres serve no clear architectural purpose. They are not foundations, walls, or tombs. Instead, they appear to have been deliberately placed across the landscape, sometimes in groups, sometimes standing alone, with no obvious pattern or meaning. One theory posits that the spheres were created to align with celestial bodies, possibly marking significant astronomical events, solstices, or the movements of the stars. Another theory suggests that they were symbols of power and status, created by the Dykus culture as displays of authority. Some of the spheres were even found arranged in lines or geometric patterns, hinting that they might have been part of a lost ceremonial or ritualistic purpose. But then, there are the more speculative ideas, ones that suggest the spheres might be remnants of an advanced civilization lost to time. Some theorists have drawn comparisons between the Dykus spheres and megalithic structures found in Peru, Egypt, and even Easter Island, arguing that they could be evidence of a culture with knowledge and technology that has since vanished. There are even legends that suggest the spheres were created by ancient gods or celestial beings, placed across the land as markers for something beyond human comprehension. One of the strangest aspects of the Dicas spheres is that many of them have been moved from their original locations over time. They have been rolled, transported, or even placed in front of government buildings, museums, and private estates as decorative objects. This movement has made it incredibly difficult for archaeologists to determine their original alignment or purpose, adding yet another layer of mystery to their existence. Were they meant to be part of a larger network of structures or pathways? Did they hold significance in relation to each other, much like the standing stones of ancient Europe? Unfortunately, we may never know, as many of the spheres have been displaced from their original sites, further complicating the puzzle. Another mystery is the complete lack of written records from the civilization that created them. Unlike the ancient cultures of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Mesoamerica, the Dicas people left behind no known hieroglyphs, cuneiform, or inscriptions that could explain the purpose of these spheres. All that remains of their legacy are these silent, massive orbs, perfectly carved, impossibly precise, and without any clear reason for their existence. One of the most enduring myths surrounding the Dicas spheres is that they are somehow connected to Atlantis or another lost civilization. Some theorists speculate that the spheres were created using a forgotten technique, possibly involving sonic technology or even anti-gravitational methods. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such ideas, the fact remains that the Dicas spheres stand as one of the most puzzling achievements in human history. If an advanced society did exist in Costa Rica long before recorded history, where did it go? Why did it vanish without a trace? The precision with which the spheres were carved and their seemingly intentional placement suggest a level of sophistication far beyond what we typically associate with early cultures. And yet, the Dicas spheres are not the only examples of such mysterious stone creations in the world. Half a world away, in the remote Ural Mountains of Russia, another set of unexplained stone spheres awaits, hinting that this riddle is not confined to just one region. The Dicas spheres remain a testament to something beyond our full understanding, a mystery that continues to challenge our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient civilizations. Until we uncover more answers, they will stand, silent, unyielding, and waiting to reveal their secrets. The horned skulls of Ser, an unsolved enigma. In the late 19th century, an astonishing discovery was made, one that defied all logic and left researchers baffled. Buried deep within an ancient burial mound, a collection of human skulls was unearthed, each one adorned with strange horn-like protrusions extending from their foreheads. These remains, now famously known as the horned skulls of Ser, have since become one of the most debated and mysterious archaeological anomalies in American history. The story of these horned skulls first emerged in the late 1800s when a group of archaeologists and historians exploring burial sites in Ser, Pennsylvania, claimed to have uncovered skeletons measuring over 7 feet tall, with skulls that bore unusual bony protrusions just above the brow ridge. The skeletons were otherwise human, but these bizarre, horn-like features set them apart from any known human variation. According to reports, the remains were sent to a nearby research institution for further study. However, after that, they mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind no physical evidence to support their existence. Since then, the horned skulls of Ser have been the subject of intense speculation. Theories range from explanations grounded in anthropology to ideas that stretch the boundaries of conventional history. One of the most immediate questions is whether the entire story could be a hoax. Skeptics argued that the entire tale might have been fabricated, a misinterpretation of skeletal abnormalities, or, perhaps, an example of sensationalist storytelling meant to attract attention. After all, this occurred during a time when interest in giants, lost civilizations, and strange artifacts was at an all-time high. Could the story have been exaggerated or even invented? Yet there are compelling reasons to consider that the story may hold some truth. The region around Ser, Pennsylvania, has long been associated with ancient burial mounds, many of which predate European settlement by thousands of years. Native American tribes in the area spoke of mysterious giant beings in their legends, descriptions of powerful ancestors, or even supernatural entities that once roamed the land. Could these stories have been based on real skeletal discoveries, perhaps ones that did not fit within the conventional historical framework? If the horned skulls were real, then what could explain them? One possibility is that they were the result of a genetic mutation, a rare condition that led to abnormal bone growths in the skull. Modern medical science has documented cases of bony outgrowths known as exostosis, but these are usually small and irregular, nothing like the symmetrical, horn-like structures described in the Ser skulls. If a population with a unique genetic trait once lived in the region, their remains might provide evidence of an undocumented human lineage, one that existed thousands of years ago in North America and then mysteriously vanished. Another theory suggests that the horn-like protrusions were the result of deliberate cranial modification. Ancient cultures across the world practiced cranial deformation, binding the heads of infants to create elongated skulls, possibly for social, religious, or ceremonial reasons. Some researchers have speculated that a similar practice could have been carried out by an unknown group in the Americas. However, there is no solid evidence to suggest that any ancient civilization in North America engaged in horn-like modifications of the skull. The most controversial theories, however, propose that the horned skulls are evidence of non-human entities. Some theorists suggest that the skulls could belong to a long-lost race of giant beings, perhaps linked to the Nephilim, the half-human, half-divine figures mentioned in ancient biblical texts. Others go even further, suggesting that the skulls could be proof of extraterrestrial intervention, proposing that certain ancient civilizations may have had contact with beings whose physical forms were radically different from our own. But perhaps the most puzzling mystery surrounding the horned skulls of Ser is not just their origin, but what happened to them. If these skulls were real, where are they now? Why have they disappeared from official records? Historical accounts state that the remains were initially sent to a local institution for study, but after that, they vanished without a trace. Some believe they were quietly removed, either destroyed or hidden away because they didn't fit the accepted scientific narrative of human history. Others theorize that the skulls may still exist somewhere, locked away in a private collection or hidden in a museum archive, waiting to be rediscovered. Without physical evidence, the horned skulls remain one of archaeology's most tantalizing and frustrating mysteries. Were they an elaborate hoax? A misunderstood medical condition? Or could they be evidence of something far more extraordinary? History is filled with riddles, some carved into stone, others buried in forgotten tombs, and still more lost in time, waiting to be rediscovered. The mysteries we've explored today are just a glimpse into the many unsolved enigmas that challenge everything we think we know about the past. But for every answer uncovered, more questions arise, and the deeper we dig, the stranger the truth seems to become. If you've enjoyed this journey through the unknown, make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos, where more forgotten secrets and unsolved mysteries await exploration. Thanks for watching. And as always, until next time, stay safe.